Giant, a pod about all things college football, all things New York Giants draft football, and all things New York Giants offseason. I'm your host, Sal, with my co-host, Monty. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Offseason seems to be slowing down a little bit from the last time we talked. There's been a couple, maybe like one move, but I can't remember who was here last time we spoke. But doing good, man. Hopefully get some more free agency announcements. But I've liked what we've done so far.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a recap of where we are as a roster after free agency and kind of reassess how the offseason strategy seems to be going. And for today, as we start going into the final stretch of draft season, where you guys are going to get inundated with a lot of different content about prospects and positional reviews, we wanted to just do kind of a high level review of the players we've already gone over and just kind of update you on where we think they stand, and obviously risers, fallers, things like that as we go into the final stretch. So we're just going to recap a lot of those guys today. And then after that, I think our plan is to get deep diving into our final big board stuff, and that's going to require some adjustments to that list. So before we get into it, relatively uneventful so far in Giants free agency. I think we should be fair and discuss, strategy in terms of what they have done, what they have not done, and what appears to be their approach to things. So I think going into it, a lot of us felt like, hey, they've got a rookie quarterback on the rookie contract, rather. They have not used any void years. They've barely tapped into future cap. This is the time to maybe fill the roster up by pushing money back on guys, signing veterans to, contracts that had void years. We did the math on it. I mean, they were able to open up somewhere over like 120 million maximally of cap space. And I think we kind of figured they might land in the 60 plus to 80 range. I don't exactly have a clear gauge of where they are, but they have not done exactly that, right? I mean, they've done some pretty prudent things, but they've been relatively conservative in their management of the cap.
Yeah, they haven't been super aggressive, but they've made some really good value signings. Although there's positions like on the lines that we want to do more, but I've really liked some of these value signings they've made over the last week or so.
I do too. I think the big elephant in the room, obviously, is, what is the plan in the trenches? And until they provide us with some answers to that approach to roster building, people are going to have trepidation about, looking at the rest of the roster. But if you just take that out for a moment, because the offseason is far from complete, I do kind of appreciate the way they have built out certain player and positions on the roster. Long-term contracts, they've largely avoided giving them out. I mean, they've given out a handful of 3-year contracts, but look who they gave it to. So Jermaine Illuminor got a 3-year contract. I don't think anybody here would be upset with what he got. 3 years, 39 million, I think it was.
It really a 2-year deal, to be honest with you.
Yep. And a guy that at 31 years of age, as he's getting better every year, I think he's a good bet to give you at least 2 of those years at a high level. So I think you're feeling comfortable with that contract. And he's a guy that can play guard. I mean, if you remember, the Giants signed him thinking he would play guard. He has played guard in the NFL. So I think he has that flexibility. Nothing wrong with the 3-year deal there. I think we're happy with it. They gave a 3-year deal to Isaiah Likely, young, ascending, pass-catching tight end, one of the best in the business on a per-snap basis in terms of forcing missed tackles and getting yak. So I think that's a good bet. What is Likely, about 25 right now? He's a younger player still.
I think so.
Yeah, and he didn't get the production that you would normally want to see when you give a guy that much money, but at the same time, he was sitting behind Mark Andrews, and when he did play, he was highly productive. They're banking on him being a productive member of this team for the next couple of years at least. They gave a 3-year deal to the punter, but he's probably the best punter in the game.
Yep, that's not a hard one to do. Not a lot of money. I mean, as far as NFL is concerned, a lot of money for a punter, I guess.
Yeah. And they gave a 3-year deal to their linebacker, to Tremaine Edmonds. And I think a fairly reasonable deal for Edmonds, like at least in a vacuum. If you told me before the offseason began that when he was cut, you got him for about 11, 12 million a year on a 3-year deal at the age of 27, I think most of us would have signed up for that.
Yeah, a bit like that's a fair deal. Wouldn't have been like, I wouldn't have been like, you're crazy. I wouldn't have been, it would just been like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Right. I would have been happier if it was like 8 million, but whatever. I'm not gonna go crazy over that at all. Other than that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's it for their multi-year deals, right? Maybe Pat Ricard got a 2-year deal, if I'm not, and
Yeah, I don't remember what Pat Ricard got. He's been getting 1-year deals for a while, so I don't even know. But yeah, I mean, Newsome got a 1-year deal.
Yeah, let's go through the 1-year deals, because I think that's a very
Yeah.
interesting aspect of it. So Newsome was the first one after they missed out on Plot. 1 year, 8 million,
Mhm.
and I think up to 10 with incentives. So he's going to be in contention to be their starting outside corner if he hits and he does a good job and he plays well. This is a former first-round pick who's had good tape in the NFL. I think he's a decent fit for the Darnell Wilson scheme. So if he hits and has a good year, this is a guy that either you can bring back and make a long-term solution, or you let him hit the market and he starts feeding into that calm formula. I like that one. What about
Yep.
who are the other 1-year deals? I think Calvin Austin got a 1-year deal.
Calvin
And that was
a great signing.
and probably the best value signing of the offseason, I would say almost by any team, right? It's hard to find a guy who's actually a productive wide receiver, even if he's a wide receiver 3, 4, gadget, whatever you want to label him, a productive player signing at his age for 1 year, $1.5 million with incentive structure. That's insane. Like, is he as good as Wan'Dale Robinson? No. But is he $16 million less good than Wan'Dale Robinson per year? No.
Also, like, they're different receivers, but was he like as good of a wide receiver as Wan'Dale Robinson like a year ago before Wan'Dale Robinson broke out? Probably pretty close.
Right. Exactly. I don't think the gap is insane to think that like they could even out again for this year. I mean, I think when you watch the tape, Wan'Dale's a better player. He's a better route runner. He's a more physical player. I think I think like in the right system, he's going to be kind of a long-term producer at the NFL level. And I think Austin's more of a guy who has to be, kind of scheme dependent, system dependent, but he can still give you production in the form of how he produces with the vertical stretching game and just speed and using him in different ways in the slot. He's going to give you some yardage. I'm not expecting a huge year, but I think a productive year on a per snap basis for $1.5 million is really excellent value.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at what these other wide receivers are making, it's pretty insane because the wide receiver market has gone absolutely crazy. And this is a good player. I mean, this is a guy who's scored 8 touchdowns over these last 3 years. This is somebody who doesn't necessarily need, unlike Wan'Dale, doesn't need to be peppered with targets to be productive. He can be your 3rd, 4th wide receiver and bring value to your team because of what his skill set does.
I agree. And then there's a bunch of, I was right. Ricard got a 2-year deal. But the other guy who was, kind of another under the radar move that I think has a lot of potential value was the 1-year deal given to Darnell Mooney, which
that was my prediction when Anthony asked us.
I mean, Darnell Mooney is, I think he's a better receiver than Darius Slayton personally. I like his game more. He's had a 1,000-yard season before. He's been productive. I think he's a better route runner in general. He's not as big as Slayton. He's like 5'11". Slayton's I think about 6'1", 6'2". And he's a little bit undersized, but he does the things he does well. He does really well, like the quick out routes, the hitches, stretching down the field. Like he does things really well. I think he's a better player. I think he's a better fit. But mainly, you got him for $4.5 million guaranteed with incentives built in. And again, for a 28-year-old receiver who has previously hit 1,000 yards, that's almost unheard of to get that kind of value. So,
yeah,
I think they've done a good job of assembling the 1-year stopgap roster building stuff that we talked about going into this. We want guys who are here on the short term to fill out the roster, so you're not compelled to make certain moves during the draft. And for the most part, they've done that, especially on offense. Where they haven't done that, as we mentioned, Monty, is in the trenches. They haven't really addressed interior offensive line or interior defensive line in a meaningful way or at all. So let's go there. I'm actually kind of shocked that we're here a week later and they still haven't done anything on the interior.
Yeah.
But their approach seems to be, let's wait out the market, because if you believe all the reports out there, they're just reluctant to spend right now, and they don't want to give out money. They're dealing with a self-inflicted budget, I believe, that's relatively modest.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've loved what they did with the receivers. To what we just talked about. You get Malik Neighbors back at some point. Isaiah Likely is going to add to this room and use wide receiver committee. But then you go to the line, you kind of question what you're going to do on the offensive line. There's an avenue to this working. Do you bring back a Greg Van Roten? That certainly can help, but also you nervous. Like, you can't rely totally on him. Has this guy, hit the end of the road? It's very possible. He's 36 years old. Where does Marcus Bowe come into this plan? If Marcus Bowe is moving to guard, I feel a lot better about their plan at offensive guard. What's their plan in the draft? I mean, look, you don't want to be going to round 2, 4, 5, whatever, with I gotta fill this position. But realistically, you do have a decent idea what you want to do at the 5th pick and who's going to be there. So that is a thought that you could have. But yeah, I would hope that they bring in a veteran. But still, I think Greg Van Roten is probably the most likely. I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't be happy, but I'd be okay with that.
I mean, the guys that are still out there, Van Roten is the most probable. Teller signed with the Texans. Bitonio is still available, although we just don't know what his status is. He may just choose to retire and or just sign back in Cleveland if that's what they want him to do. Although they basically replaced him as a starter, so I'm not sure he's going to do that. Back. So it's really choosing between retirement and just finding another home then. I think Bitonio would actually be perfect. We haven't talked about him a lot.
I would love Bitonio.
I mean, Bitonio I think he's the same age as Van Roten. He's like 34 or something like that. He's a little bit younger maybe, but he's a solid left guard. And I think
he's better than Teller, in my opinion.
He's definitely better than Teller. And I think without a doubt, the last couple of years, he's been better than Teller. So at 34 years of age, I would take a bet on him if he was interested in coming here. I would even give him a 2-year deal, just keep him around. He's a big wild card out there. I just don't know what he's going to do. The other guys that are out there, GVR, we mentioned. James Daniels is still out there. He was cut by the Steelers. He has a history with Matt Nagy. I still think he's a high probability target, potentially. And there's a bunch of other guys out there. There's dudes, the Mekhi Bectons of the world, and like the retreads, and you can just kind of find somebody. But in terms of known starters, the pickings are kind of slim right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you're at, and we'll see who they bring in. You're not bringing in your long-term answer at guard, which you don't need to do. I don't necessarily need them to do that, but I do need them to bring in somebody. And I think the world of replacing John Runyon with somebody else is gone now. I think John Runyon you can pencil in to be your left guard this year.
I think at this point it's the most likely thing, unless the draft changes that, and I think we'll get there. But for the time being, I think he's likely staying. We should mention they brought back Evan Neal and Josh Azudu, and it's been fun for me. It's been real fun for me. I've enjoyed it, but some people have really freaked out over the Evan Neal, Josh Azudu re-signing. So you've had a chance to now digest it. Tell everybody what your honest, sober thoughts are about these two signings.
I don't give a shit. It's kind of where I'm at with it. I just, their bodies, they have familiarity with people here. There's some upside. Neither of them have guaranteed money. They're camp bodies to some extent. We'll see if they make the team. I don't know. It's not a lot to it to me.
I think that's important to emphasize. These are people who don't have guaranteed money. This is not Evan Neal 5th overall pick. This is Evan Neal, failed former first-round pick, signing for a non-guaranteed vet minimum salary.
Yeah.
And so where does that place him? It probably means he's starting third team, and lower on, like he's doing drills with everybody else, and he's trying to earn playing time in camp. And if he can earn it, he'll earn it. If he can't earn it, it's over for him. I don't expect anything more than that for Evan Neal.
Yeah.
With the Azudu, it's a little bit more interesting in my opinion, because I think this is a guy that I actually think he fits more of what I would presume that, guys like Greg Roman would want out of their offensive linemen in a run game.
Mhm.
People have forgotten what he was in college because he's been just a disaster since he got here. And the way we used him, I think, definitely created more of a disaster. But he was drafted 67th overall in 2022, mainly because he was this really gifted athlete who was a good run blocker and had the flexibility to play multiple positions, including tackle. But the real reason they got him, Monty, was because they thought this guy's footwork could be really excellent, and he could be a real good run blocker as a guard, and they just never developed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the one upside here, man. Is that it feels like I don't really expect anything. I don't think anybody should expect anything, but it feels like we kind of ruined our chance of potentially finding something in these guys because we waited so long to try to transition these guys to guards. And now, now you have the second season underneath their belt to potentially see if there's anything there. I don't think there is. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a step last year to kind of see that, but it's something.
Well, yeah, I fully agree. I think it's just another look, and it's a clean slate. I mean, you see that word put, those words put about, but I think it actually is very applicable here. I mean, these guys are not coming in and being like they're not coming in as the former top 100 picks of the Giants. They're coming in as guys off the street, essentially, trying to win playing time in camp with a whole new coaching staff. So we have familiarity with them, but I think that they're going to be out there just hustling like everybody else, trying to find a chance to get some playing time. And I'm fine with it. If the new coaching staff sees anything in either of these guys, I'm very comfortable playing it out. I don't think this is their solution to the problem. I think they're just throwing out bodies who they think have some upside, and we'll see where they land.
So there's one comment here saying basically this is a bad precedent, rewarding garbage players, giving them, 5 chances, all that, which to be fair, like that has been an issue with this organization. They've given these high picks chance after chance after chance, and that's been a Joe Schoen thing. Joe Schoen has wanted and pushed his guys to get there. And if it wasn't John Harbaugh here, I'd be a lot more worried about it. But I'm not worried about Joe Schoen telling John Harbaugh what to do with his roster. So that's one thing I'll say.
I don't think Josh Azudu and Evan Neal are back because Joe Schoen lobbied to bring them back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so sure that's what happened here. My guess is that John Harbaugh just thought, all right, these guys they were guys I was looking at in the draft.
Yeah, or he watched the tape on everybody. Like there's something he watched preseason.
Let me get a look at them in camp and see what they can do. I'll give them a fair shot. That's all it is. On the defensive line side, dude, it is getting really slim, really fast in terms of finding anybody. They've invested nothing on the D line, on the interior specifically, and we don't have any starters. We don't have. I mean, right now it's just Dex and Darius Alexander. We need somebody else to, at minimum, be a starter. That can eat up 2 downs of play consistently. A lot of guys came off the board. Sebastian Joseph Day was a guy I wanted. I thought he was a good fit for us.
Yeah, that was upsetting to see.
Yeah, he didn't go for much. DJ Reader is still out there. And he kind of fits the prototype what you're looking for. This veteran, run-stuffing defender. I don't think he's going to cost a lot. I'm guessing he's going to cost around what Sebastian Joseph Day got, $5-6 million a year, maybe less, And then there's Calais Campbell, who's still out there. And he's got to be like 40 now, but he's still playing at a high level.
Yep.
Where would you like to see this go?
I think there's one name you're not mentioning here is what I'm holding out hope that something happens here is Christian Wilkins. Best friend of Dexter Lawrence, was cut, would not count against the comp formula. So if that's a game they're playing right now, that's something they can do with Christian Wilkins. And well, when he played, over a year ago when he was last healthy, this guy was, one of the best defensive tackles in the league, at least from a run stopping standpoint. And actually had a really good sack production year in his contract year. That's who I'm hoping that they make a move for, and he's still sitting out there.
Yeah, if he's healthy, and I think that's the big question, right? Because I don't think that for all his freaky adventures, I don't think teams would just be ignoring him if they were confident he was healthy. I think the issue here is we don't really know what his health status is. So I would love to have him, but I think while you wait for him, you still need to bring in at minimum a run stopping guy.
Yeah,
I just feel like that's important right now. And I don't want to go into the draft needing that guy. I want to have somebody that I can trust on the roster that can at least sit there and, two gap and eat up the run.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Anybody else you're hoping they target in free agency at this point?
No, I think we went over it. A little interior line, a little interior D line. We mentioned some names, but that's all I need at this point. I'm pretty happy. I would like to add maybe another corner or something, but I don't really have anybody in mind.
But I think with corner, that's a position where I think they'll be very comfortable waiting till like the end of camp, like on cut down day or something, where you're going to say, "Oh, there's a good veteran. Let me go get him." Or you try out people in camp and you find somebody that you think can compete for a roster spot. I'm not too worried about that corner thing.
Yeah.
Look, they wanted to keep Cordell Flott, but not at the price he got. And I think they're very comfortable rolling with Newsome and guys who are going to be on 1-year deals to just see what happens and then, draft and develop. But I do think that their willingness to sit out some of the other corners after Flott was gone suggests that they're more than open to the idea of taking a corner early in this draft, maybe first round, although I think I kind of doubt that, but it's possible. But I think certainly second round, it's coming into play. It's a possibility. And there will be good players there in all likelihood in the second round.
Yeah.
All in all, though, man, as we segue to what we're talking about here, it'd be nice if the Giants had another day 2 pick. All right. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the crux of this. They got to fill out the roster. They're not spending a ton of money. They're not pushing cap back to fill out the roster. They're going to have to get quality players on this roster. And so it would be nice to have another top 100 pick. How do you see that playing out on draft, like with the Giants in the draft? What's your best guess? That nothing changes, or that they make a move and they figure out a way to get more picks?
I think they make a move. I certainly think they make a move. Where, I'm not sure. I think I would be shocked if they picked at 5 and 37. I'd be shocked if they picked at both those picks. I think there's a reality they trade back from both those picks. I think there's a reality that they trade back twice in like the second round or something like they did back in 2022. I think there could be 1 to 2 trades throughout the first and second round.
Yeah, and I think that trading back from both of those picks becomes much more like, I think it's kind of like a domino effect. If you trade back from the first and you pick up another day 2 pick, hopefully another second round pick, I think it makes you a little bit more cavalier about what you do with that 37th overall pick, because you've got a backup pick not too far behind it. And you might just say, you know what, I'm going to take 37. I'm going to flip it depending on who's on the board. And I'm going to turn it into another second round pick, maybe another third round pick, and you start stacking the picks together that might help you build a roster. So we'll see, but I agree with you. I think their primary objective will be to trade that pick. I don't care what anybody's reporting. I don't care how much they love this player or that player. It doesn't make sense to me that they would not be trying to trade down here.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, I think 5's the question. It's not going to be, it's a lot easier said than done to trade out of those top picks. It takes a pretty penny to come up for it, and now all the teams are willing to do it. I think 37, pretty easy pick to trade out of. There's going to be teams that want to come up. So we'll see.
Yep. All right. So let's assume a happy reality. The Giants did make a move. Let's say they went from 5 to 9, Kansas City, and they ended up getting Kansas City's second round pick. So let's say you got picked 9, 37, whatever their pick is, 40, 41, something like that. And you're working with that kind of draft capital. Let's start going through the guys that we've reviewed, because I think there's plenty of guys who are going to go over again, who I think we would be thrilled if they got 3 of these guys, right? Or early on. And I think it could potentially change our team. So what we're going to do is go through a lot of the guys we reviewed, like I mentioned, like Monte mentioned earlier, and we'll see where they stack up as we head into the rest of the draft coverage. So why don't you get us kickstarted? What position do you want to go to?
As far as the second, or should we just start at the top?
At the top of our picks, of the guys we reviewed.
Okay. What I was just going to start with quarterback, but we can start somewhere else if you want.
Go for it.
All right. So, I mean, we're just going to start. I always figure we'll go across our spreadsheet here, position by position. Quarterback, we don't need to talk about too much, but we reviewed 5 guys. Only 3 ended up declaring. Just to give you guys kind of a review of what we did here. We're not going to go in too much detail. Go back and watch those episodes if you want detail on all these guys. We went very far into it, but just kind of give you how we stacked these guys up and what we did. So our number 1 guy was Fernando Mendoza. He got a 3.55, which means he's somewhere in between an average player and like a Pro Bowler. We said he's technically sound, accurate with advanced anticipation, excellent touch, who consistently puts the ball in the right spot, but his mobility, the ability to create off schedule is limited, and he struggles under pressure. He projects as a highly accurate pocket-based quarterback who may be limited in improv situations and against heavy pressure. Do you have anything you want to put in there?
No, I think everybody's discussed Mendoza a lot. He'll be the first overall pick, and I think that's a good description of him. We've comped him multiple times for different guys. A slightly more athletic Jared Goff really does seem appropriate for Mendoza, and I think he's going first overall.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily have the improv ability, but he's a guy who can take the ball, put his head down, and pick up a first down.
Yep. The other guy, the next guy, I think. Well, the guy we really like, that didn't declare, but may still end up getting drafted is Trinidad Chambliss, because his saga is not concluded. Yeah, so Trinidad Chambliss was actually our highest graded quarterback, if I recall. We were, when we reviewed him. He scored the highest overall grade. Remember, our grading system is based on metrics that we kind of adapted from Bill Walsh's, coaching approach and scouting approach. So we're not going to necessarily have guys who are consensus top of the draft. We're just going to like who we like based on those things, and we'll just score them out and see how it goes. But Chambliss, had a really great season at Ole Miss, and he finished strong in the playoffs before they lost finally. But here's our overview, our final assessment of him. Trinidad Chambliss is an athletic, dynamic, and highly improvisational quarterback with elite arm strength, versatility, the ability to make plays outside structure. He shows leadership and poise in high-pressure situations and has a full passing repertoire. However, his accuracy and decision-making can be inconsistent, which could limit timing-based effectiveness in YAC. He projects as a high-upside starter who can create big plays, but needs to improve consistency to reach elite NFL levels. Do you have anything to add to that? Has your view on him changed at all?
No, not really. I mean, look, I like him. I think he's got to fight an uphill battle given his size to really translate the NFL and his limited D1 experience. But he's interesting. I really hope he gets back to school. I think he could be an interesting guy next year if he does. But
what if it's this year? The NCAA, where it stands with his ruling for eligibility, is still up in the air. So he's missed the entire pre-draft process, but the last ruling was from a judge who basically granted him the ability to go back to school. And we thought the story was over, but that judge went out of his way to declare how aggravated he was that they were blocking him from going back to his own alma mater, Ole Miss. And the NCAA sued and appealed that ruling, saying the judge was biased, and they won the appeal. So now he's his status is still up in the air. I don't think he's going to end up declaring for the NFL draft, but there's a chance he might have to. There's a chance that they block him from getting eligibility. Where do you see him going if he does declare? Does he become somebody that rushes towards the top of the list and as a mid first round pick, or is he someone that you think is still a developmental guy that's going later?
I think there's a reason he's trying to go back to school so bad. It's because they're telling him he's not going to be a high pick, and I think missing all these pre-draft things is going to kill his stock if he has to come into the draft.
Yeah, I think his size is going to work against him. He's a great player, but I think he's 6 even maybe, and I just feel like teams are not going to necessarily want to take a bunch of outlier risks on him right now. So I agree. If he does declare, he's probably a day 2 guy. I
think he's a really fun football player. I think he's ultimately a guy whose game's going to translate better at college than the NFL, but I do think he's a really exciting guy.
All right, let's start ripping through these pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The next guy that we went over was, Ty Simpson. And he's in the draft, obviously, and I think he's getting a lot of love as a possible first-round pick. Where we don't know yet, but we had our review of him was he was athletic, high velocity passer, can extend plays, process multiple reads. I think that's one of his superpowers. He's a good processor. In rhythm, he can be really pro caliber with timely throws, good velocity touch. Once he's pressured, though, everything kind of falls apart. He starts making bad decisions and, looks for home run plays. Then he can't convert them. It harms his team. So a lot of pros, a lot of cons here. Has your view on Ty Simpson changed?
No, I mean, look, teams are going to be enamored by him in some senses. I mean, if you compare like the first 9 games of last year of Mendoza and Ty Simpson, Mike Amoy saying Ty Simpson's like the better football player. It's what happened after those games where Mendoza really took off, won a national championship, played great in those playoffs, and Ty Simpson completely fell off the face of the earth. He played terrible, terrible, terrible football. He's a guy again I thought should have went back to school, but I think so. He's somebody's going to take a shot on the top 50. Certainly,
I think he got intel that he's going in the first round. Personally,
yeah, there is.
I don't know where, but we'll see. You want to do your guy, and then we'll move to the next position.
Yeah, I want to say one last thing on Ty Simpson that I think is interesting. I was listening to Todd McShay's podcast. He's actually been really good, interesting listening to him. He said he was trying to pick his words carefully, but he was essentially alluding to that pre the McDuffie move that the Rams were essentially telling Ty Simpson that if he comes out, they'd be very interested in taking him.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen anymore. He doesn't really think it's going to happen anymore, but there was something to that, apparently.
I never thought it was going to happen. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's less and less likely now.
I mean, there's something there, but I think it's gone now. But
why don't you review your favorite guy, and then we'll go to the next position group.
Sure. So this guy, if the Giants needed a quarterback this year, this is who I'd want the Giants to take, and I think it would be with a day 2 pick. But the guy that a lot of people have quarterback 1 going into this year, and it's Garrett Nussmeier. And Garrett Nussmeier, he dealt with injuries this year. You got a little bit more information after the season that he was dealing with some core injuries, among other things. But I went back and watched his tape from 2024, and I came away saying he's a pocket-based QB, really high IQ quarterback. I think he has great arm strength. He has good touch and anticipation. He excels under pressure when mechanics are in rhythm and can manipulate defense with his eyes and throws. However, his mobility is limited and off-platform accuracy can be inconsistent, which could affect his ability to improvise or maintain rhythm under duress. I say he projects as a high-end kind of structured system starter, may struggle when forced outside of a clean pocket or against complex, fast defenses, but I saw a lot of NFL plays from him his first year starting at LSU, and I think that he's a guy who I would take a shot on, that he is more of what you saw in 2024 than what you saw in 2025.
Yeah, I think he's the value play of all these guys. Right, he's the quarterback. Like, I see people in chat talking about the Giants should take a swing with one of their 6th-round picks on a quarterback. I actually wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I think, if you can find somebody you think you can develop, that's great. If Garrett Nussmeier somehow slides and he's available at that point, I would take a swing on him. Like, this is a guy, and I can't say for certain he won't slide, right? It's just, you just don't know.
He's small.
Yeah. And he doesn't, while he's athletic, he doesn't show it, right? Like, he doesn't use consistent athleticism to make plays. There's a world where Nussmeier slides. And if he's sliding and he's there in the 6th round with one of your picks, odds are he'll be a better bet to get value for you than any of the other guys you might take at that pick. And I'd be very comfortable taking Garrett Nussmeier and developing him as a backup quarterback behind Jackson Dart if that's what it came to. So I think that of the guys we've discussed, that's the one to watch. Like, that's the one where I'm like, I think he'll go earlier than this, Monty. I think he'll go in the third, but we say this every year. We think like there's no way the quarterback's going to slide,
Yeah.
and then they go down. And when they slide, man, it's a free for all for quarterbacks when they start sliding. So there's a world where he's there, and I would if we're sitting here on Saturday of the draft, we're towards like the middle of the 6th round, our picks are coming up, and he's still sitting there. Depending on what we did earlier in the draft and who the other players are, I'm probably going to be like, yeah, I kind of want to take Nussmeier here. Just get him in the building.
Yeah, you said these guys can fall. If Trinidad gets in the draft, he's a guy who could end up falling. Who knows? And I'm all for building a quarterback factory, man. Get these guys in. Get Jameis only has 1 year left in his contract. Get a cheap backup, and hopefully, if in preseason games, if Dart gets hurt, hopefully not there, but you can trade this guy at the end of his deal. It's something like the Philadelphia Eagles have been doing forever.
You're hedging your bet for the future to some extent. But more importantly, you're developing a talented young player so that, if he does have to play, or maybe, Dart takes a game off, maybe we've got a playoff spot, who the hell knows, right? And he gets a chance to play, show something, you now have value there. It doesn't take much for a young quarterback to have his stock suddenly surge in the eyes of other NFL teams. He just literally has to have like one good game as a backup, and all of a sudden people are paying attention. So that's the one I'm paying attention to from the QB room. I don't know if there's anybody else worth discussing from the QB class. For us, I would say no. Honestly, there are a lot of names that are being thrown out there, like Altmaier and what's old buddy's name? The dude from the Greek guy from Rutgers. I'm forgetting his name, but those are all interesting guys. But
I will not be reviewing any more quarterbacks this offseason.
No. But I think that the Nussmeier discussion is one worth having. That there's a chance he's there,
and he's killing the preseason, the offseason process right now. The draft process. He looked great in the Senior Bowl compared to everybody else. He threw really well at the combine.
Yep. All right. Next group. Where are we heading?
We're heading over to running back.
All right.
So we had, let's see.
We had Love number 1, obviously.
Yep. I'm trying to see who declared here. I think did Haynes declare?
No.
So really only 2 guys here we have that declared.
Yeah. So the only of the guys we reviewed, only Jonah Coleman and Jeremiah Love declared. Smothers went back. Waymon Jordan went back. Justice Haynes went back. So those guys all went back.
Yep.
So 2 guys to talk about from who we discussed. So, I mean, Love, the big discussion with Love, obviously, is if he's there at 5, would the Giants take him? Number 1, Monty, would you? And number 2, do you think the Giants would if Love is sitting there at 5?
I would not. I'm not as high on Jeremiah Love as other people. I think he's a great running back. I don't think he's a Bijan, Saquon level running back, personally, in my opinion. Others may feel that way. I think most do feel that way. So I wouldn't blame the Giants if they do feel that. I recognize I am more of the outlier here, and I'm okay with that. And if the Giants pick Jeremiah Love, I certainly wouldn't throw a fit over it. I believe in taking blue chip players until the blue chip players are gone. I have other players I have rated higher, and I think there are other blue chip players on the board that I would prefer to take, and I would be upset if we passed on. But he is a very, very good football player, and I do think he is a consensus blue chip.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance he's gone by the time we pick. I do believe that Tennessee, the way they operated this offseason, they are poised to take some sort of playmaker. He's going to be the best playmaker at 4. I think that's who they take. But if he's there at 5, Monty, 1, I wouldn't be upset if they took him because I think he is a dynamic player. But
I'd be okay.
I do think he's one of the few guys that could actually generate, some trade buzz. Like if he's sitting there at 5, like somebody might say, I'll throw you a 3rd or a 2nd or something. Let me just get that guy. I think there's a world where he helps the Giants execute on a plan to move down if that's what they want to do. And that's his value to us right now. I don't think it's necessarily just drafting him, although I'd be fine if they did. I think his value is the potential to induce a trade.
Yeah, it's funny how you look at it because you look at the other 2 blue chippers might be there with Styles and Downs, and all three kind of play what's considered less premium positions. But if you look at how in the draft, it feels like running back is something that teams will attack more aggressively in the draft. Off-ball linebackers will go top 10 when they're blue chips pretty often, and safeties tend to slide. And it's almost opposite how those guys get paid. Like Kyle Hamilton's making $27 million a year. The off-balls like making like 21, 22, and running backs making under 20. Just under 20, like Saquon and Jonathan Taylor. But it's funny, it's the opposite in the draft where you see these teams. I think that they look at these running backs as hey, this is how I can help my quarterback. This is how I can bring a spark to this offense. So I think that that's something to consider with the Giants, and something, like you said, to consider with a trade about something they might do there.
I think that there's so many. Again, is it my preference to get Love at the fifth overall pick? Probably not. But I do think there's sort of like this galaxy brain like addiction to saying you can't touch a running back in the top picks, that I feel like people need to take a step back from that.
Yeah.
This is not 2018 where we have an aging quarterback who looks like he's losing it, no offensive line, no defensive players that are young, and a sitting second overall in a quarterback loaded draft class. Actually, a prospect loaded class where you could have taken your quarterback or you could have traded the pick and gotten a king's ransom. This is a very different situation than what led to Dave Gettleman just saying, Saquon no matter what, which was crazy at the time. This is a situation where the Giants actually do have their franchise quarterback, it appears, at least for the foreseeable future, under contract with a rookie deal. You have a number one wide receiver already in Malik Neighbors. You have a pass rush, quite a good one, with Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. You've added Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, I think your team is more situated to take a swing on a major talent if it's there. And I think it's a very different thing. And what if their theory is Dart is really good, but to maximize his best attribute, which is the ability to run an RPO-based offense, we need a game breaker of a running back. That's what's going to maximize what things, how we do this. And we can have that guy alternate with Cam Scatterby to basically soften up teams, hit home runs, run everything through the run game, and let Jackson Dart punish guys. I don't think that's a crazy way to approach the offense next year.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And, I think, two parts of my pushback on wanting it is more just one, me not quite being as high as on Love as others. And the other is me being very high on Cam Scatterby. Obviously he would still have a role here, like, as you mentioned. But, I think it would be similar to me, in my opinion, to what the Falcons did with taking Bijan with Algier there. I personally think Scatterby is much better in Algier, but he came off a 1,000-yard season, and I think Bijan's better than Love, but there's certainly be people who would argue that. But I think it's a similar type situation if you make a move like that. At least that's where your mind is probably at.
Just out of curiosity, before we move on, if the Giants were picking fifth as we are, but the running back on the board was 2023 Bijan Robinson,
I would take Bijan.
Okay, so this is not a running back thing per se. This is more of your perception of the individual prospect.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't take Bijan necessarily. I might pick somebody else, but I would be perfectly fine taking Bijan. I'd be happy with Bijan.
I mean, I think if you try to make it analogous, you have a couple of stud defenders from prior classes and Bijan Robinson sitting there, and a good guard and lineman, who are you taking with that fifth pick with the Jackson Dart going into his second year? I still think you would take Bijan Robinson,
Yeah.
And that's why I think this comes down to how people feel about the prospect. Like, they may like him, but they don't necessarily view him as like the Saquon Bijan level prospect. I think that's the issue.
I've said it before. To me, he's closer to Breece Hall than he is Bijan Robinson. I think he's better in Breece Hall, but I think you're similar type running backs. I don't think he's a Bijan Robinson level player, but there's a lot of people who disagree with me. And I understand I'm in the minority.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting thing that plays out as we get towards the draft, especially if he's there at 5. The other running back we reviewed, Monty, that we have to talk about that did not go back to school was the kid out of Washington. He's the only one left, Jonah Coleman. Our scouting, we actually gave him a pretty decent grade. I think I was lower on him than you were. But overall, he did okay with us. But we wrote this about him. Coleman is a dynamic, shifty back who thrives in open space and outside runs, pairs home run speed and balance with playmaking ability, making him difficult to bring down. However, limitations in pass protection and lack of power running restrict him from being a complete 3-down back, best suited for outside zone schemes or as a change of pace complement in a committee approach. Has your view on him changed at all?
No, I think it's a very, very weak running back class. A lot of these guys going back did not help it. But he's one of the more promising guys in it, but it's certainly not a class I love, and he's not a difference maker.
Yeah. Next question. Do you think he's the right kind of complementary back to the Giants if they decide to go for him somewhere later, if they have a later day 2 pick or day 3 pick?
I would say so. I would like a guy with maybe a little bit more juice, but I think he has more than enough juice, and I think that he is, that fit in the committee you're kind of looking for, the guy who has a home run ability and is like can help out the backfield and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Shall we go to the next group?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because everybody else went back to school.
Yeah, and this one is a position where we did 10 guys, so hopefully we should have a good number of guys we can go through kind of quickly here.
How many we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah,
we have 10 guys all declared for the draft here.
Yep.
Well, let's make this quick and efficient, so we're not bogged down.
Yeah, let's just kind of we won't go into too much discussion here and make a mention. Hey, this guy might be available 37. We can talk about that or we take him, but let's just kind of give the score and what we said about him. So I'm just going to start at the top. I'm going to go in order. We'll just go from on our spreadsheet where we had him. So Jordan Tyson. We gave him a 3.7, very good grade. What we said on him, Jordan Tyson is a highly skilled route runner with exceptional agility, deceptive footwork, and ability to manipulate defenses with tempo and body control. He excels at creating instant separation on short to immediate routes and is slippery after the catch, making him a threat in space. While he struggles with deeper routes, oversets defenders at times, and offers little as a blocker, his smooth movement, understanding of leverage, and ability to minimize contact windows make him a versatile and dynamic offensive weapon. With improved consistency on deeper routes and a better feel for drifting into open zones for his quarterback, Tyson has the potential to be a high-end playmaker at the next level. Also worth mentioning that he's had a lot of injuries in the past. That's not in here, but that's a big part of this.
I agree with everything you said there. I would say that I think his stock is falling because of the medicals. You keep seeing clear. You see the mock drafts, and the mock drafts aren't everything, but the guys who you should pay attention to, guys like Jeremiah and Brugler at this time, they have Tyson slipping quite a bit in their mock drafts. And I think that sort of signifies that, teams are wary of his health history. Otherwise, he'd be going earlier. So one to watch there. I think you can't deny the player, but the health issues do seem to be real.
It feels like he's wide receiver 3 at this point, the way people are talking about him.
Yeah. Next guy was Carnell Tate. He's consensus wide receiver 1 right now. We had him as, I think we had him actually graded. We had him tied for 1. Yeah. Competitive physical wide receiver with reliable hands, excellent ball tracking skills, capable of winning outside catches, creating big plays down the field, manipulates defenders with tempo, jab step, body control, and maintains fluidity throughout his route while sustaining balance and blocks. While he lacks ultra quickness in lateral movements and tends to round off his break, his combination of physicality, timing, consistency make him a tough, versatile, larger target who can be a reliable weapon in both short and deep passing situations. So, has anything changed there?
No, that play of him getting the alligator arms in the playoffs lives rent free in my head. But no, that
he had a terrible game against Miami.
But I guess the one question I have for you here on him, because this is the one guy, this is the guy people are talking. He's talking about going right in the range of our pick, like that top 10. He's the guy. Would you take Carnell Tate at 5?
No,
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, and I like him a lot, but I just feel like as we've gotten more tape, remember we reviewed these guys at some point, but more tape and playoffs happen, and you got a chance to look back and watch more, see whatever testing you can see. We're beginning to put the whole package together, and I would say, as much as I think Carnell Tate is probably the safest bet to be like a low end wide receiver 1 in this class for a long time, and I think that's what he's going to be, right? Like in the category of like the T. Higgins types, right? Like those types of guys who are like solid number 1s, but not necessarily top number 1s. I just think there's way more impact upside for the Giants at that pick than him in other positions and other players. So I probably wouldn't do it. Now, if I traded down Monty, if you said we're trading down, we're picking up assets, I think he becomes a much more viable option. Although I don't think you can trade down very far and still get Carnell Tate. I think that there are teams that will take him in the top 10.
I don't think you're gonna be able to do it, but I agree with you. He's one of the guys on my list if we're trading down. Certainly, I'll mention it because it's something Alex in the chat here, but something he's brought up a bunch of times is, look, you bring up T. Higgins, he can become T. Higgins. Yeah, maybe he's not the impactful player that you're trying to get with these other picks, but look at what T. Higgins is making, and look at
$30 million a year, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Way more than these impact players are making. But at the same time, you can get a T. Higgins. We could probably trade for a T. Higgins if we tried hard. We cannot trade for.
We could literally trade for T. Higgins.
Yeah,
like if you really wanted T. Higgins, like I think we can get him.
But you're not trading for Kyle Hamilton, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to be careful in how I word this, but my thinking on how we should draft outside of quarterback, right? I was quarterback obsessed forever.
Quarterback's an exception to every rule.
Right. Well, once we got Dart and it looks like he's going to be a dude, however long, we'll see how the second year goes, but I think we're pretty confident that he looks like he's got something good. After that, like, I don't care about drafting for positional value. I don't care about drafting, just BPA.
Mm-hmm.
I care about drafting for impact.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, once you're building around the foundation of a quarterback, impact matters more than anything. And I understand that, like, there are guys that we're going to want to take who maybe they're looking at a contract of like 15 to 20 million a year, even if they're really good when they get to their second contract, versus guys who could be worth 30 million a year, 35 million. I understand that. I totally get that. My counter to that is, that's ignoring those 4 to 5 years in between and pretending they don't matter. I could give a shit what we're paying these guys in 3 years. I'm hoping to build a Super Bowl contender between now and then. So if I'm not thinking about that second contract, and I'm not saying you don't, but right now I'm thinking about what wins football games and makes it a big impact for this team. So do I think Carnell Tate is the most impactful player for this team at pick 5? No. And that's why I wouldn't take him. I would take Jeremiah Love before Carnell Tate, actually. Because I actually think Jeremiah, he actually changes the dynamic of the offense more than Carnell Tate does.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know, but I would grade that pick higher, I should say, just because I understand that a lot of people a lot smarter and better at doing this than I am, think that he's the next guy. And I do respect that. I respect these guys' opinions on a guy like Jeremiah Love, even if I'm not quite there with them. Again, I've said it. I said it before. Take blue chips till they're gone. I don't think Carnell Tate is a blue chip. Hence, I wouldn't take him over blue chips. And and when you're picking this high, you get blue chips. You take the blue chip, and I promise you, there's gonna be guys you're gonna like similar level to Carnell Tate getting taken the 18, 20 area. Happens every single year. I like JSN more than I like Carnell Tate this year, and he got picked 20. You know, I like CeeDee Lamb more than I like Carnell Tate. I got taken 18. It happens all the time.
I don't have a high degree of confidence that wide receiver 4 will not have a better career than Carnell Tate. And that's my concern in this class, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Tate. I just think they're like, when you're talking about that level of prospect, when like outside of Jordan Tyson, who I think clearly, if he's healthy, has like real wide receiver 1 potential in terms of his ability and his athletic testing and everything, athletic ability rather. Outside of him, I think there's some interchangeable parts here, in terms of potential impact. So anyway, long way of saying, no, I don't think I would take him at 5. The other wide receivers, let's just rip through them.
Yeah, let's rip through these.
We got to get through the other positions. But look, Lemon, I'm not going to go through the scouting report in detail. I think he's a slot player for the most part, a little outside, but mostly a slot player. He's tough as shit. He catches everything. He's a great ball tracker. He runs through people. He is a nasty route runner. He's just a really freaking great high motor football player. His limitations are going to be his size and his speed, his long speed. He didn't, what did he run, like a 4.5 at his pro day, something like that, which is not surprising given he has shorter legs and I think stride length matters here. But overall, you're getting a gritty, great football player if you do take him. Again, like Tate, I'm not touching him unless I'm trading down into the teens, into the teens. Then I would consider Makai Lemon.
Yeah, he'd be on my list in a trade down. I love Makai Lemon's tape. He's the exact type of receiver I like. I don't love the reports about his interviewing and things like that, things that we don't get to see. We don't get to talk to him.
I'm going to ignore that stuff until it's a thing,
Yeah, just hearing him talk didn't necessarily make me feel any better that those weren't true.
He's a little odd. He's a little odd.
Yeah, I like Makai Lemon a lot. I certainly consider him a trade down. All right. Was you good on that one?
Yeah.
He got a 3.8, by the way, so he was tied with Tate for us.
Yep.
This next one got a 3.2, and we were not as high as everybody else. Chris Bell. We liked him. We thought, in some senses, we thought he's somebody we both thought we'd like more going into it because he fits what we look for. He's a big, fast guy. He's very physical. He has great speed, but he can make catches in tight windows, sustain blocks, but he can't release, man. He's terrible release package. He does not separate, doesn't have a good route tree. He struggles with defenders, especially on speed routes, but he is hard to bring down when you kind of just get the ball in his hands and things like that. But that was before the ACL, and with the ACL, man, as far as other people are talking about him, I would not touch Chris Bell.
I've been burned with this prototype before, Monty, and I'm just not interested in it, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Malachi Corleys, the Jonathan Mingos, the physical yak guys, right?
Yeah. Jonathan Mingo is a great comp, honestly.
Yeah. And I thought about him today because I was like, Jonathan Mingo is a guy who got a lot of pre-draft love because of the physical ability, right? He's a big, strong guy. And I liked him a lot. I'm like, oh man, this guy, just get him the ball in space and he's gonna out physical people and just pick up tons of yak for you. And one thing you forget when you fall in love with these kinds of players is they've got to do the basics, right? They've got to be able to release at the line of scrimmage. They've got to be able to create some separation to get themselves a target. And once they get that target, then they have a chance to do something to create natural yak, right? Meaning you're running your normal route tree. You get the ball because you win your rep. Then you can take off with the ball in your hand. That's something special. But a lot of these types of guys, they don't do anything. They're just covered very easily by defenders, right? And I think we saw that with Bell. Like he was easy to cover. And that was at college. So at the NFL level, I think guys are going to be blanketed on him. And I don't know how much he's going to produce. I mean, I just wouldn't make the bet. I don't know about you, and this has nothing to do with injury, but I don't want Chris Bell.
No, I have no interest in him. I mean, There's a question here: is Bell more of an outside wide receiver, a gadget guy? I think the perception is that he's going to be your big physical AJ Brown type wide receiver, but I think the reality is the way he was used at Louisville, he's a gadget.
He's a gadget. Like you're gonna have to find ways to get the ball in his hand to take advantage of his physical traits, but he's not someone who's going to go out there and route people up.
Yep,
it's just not his game. Until he does, he doesn't. Who else did we go to next?
Next is a guy I really like.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Denzel Boston, and this is the guy I'm keeping an eye on. If he's fallen, and I would love to take a 37. I said he's technically sound, physical receiver, dependable hands, and excellent body control. He's leveraged with his length, positioning, and footwork to create separation and consistently find open spots in zone coverage. While he lacks elite speed and doesn't consistently gain yards after catch, Boston's awareness, leverage, and ability to win contested catches make him a reliable option who can be counted on in both short and intermediate passing situations. To me, this guy's a technician. I think he has great feet. I think that he is somebody who has a little bit of, a kind of discount of what Carnell Tate gives you. Carnell Tate's a much better athlete than his, but I think he's got that big body guy. Carnell Tate came in kind of small, while Denzel Boston lived up to his entire 6'4" listed height. I think he's a guy who you can use it as that big slot. You can use him outside when get him in contested catch situations. I think he's, I comped him the other day to like a Michael Thomas, and with some of his numbers that he had, and I think there could be a path to that being that in the NFL.
He's a solid high floor player. He did not run the 40 at the combine or at his pro day, and he doesn't look fast on tape. So that makes me think he's like a 4.6 guy. I just want people to be aware that that's likely what he is.
Great agility numbers though for his size.
His agility numbers were like excellent. So the Michael Thomas comp is a good one, right? Like a guy who's a big receiver who really plays a lot inside, right? I mean, taking advantage of agility and his lateral movement. What does that make him in the NFL? Probably a solid number 2 receiver, is how I look at him. I don't think he's a true number 1. I don't think he has the long speed to push the vertical route like tree that much, but I think he could. I just don't think he has the long speed for it. And I think there are some limitations. For that reason, I wouldn't be shocked if he's sitting there at pick 37. I'm serious.
Yeah, he seems to be falling.
I mean, apparently teams love the lateral agility and the athletic testing outside of the 40. So we'll see. But I do think teams are wary of this. The guys who don't run a 40, like the Marvin Harrison experience, right? Like they refuse to run a 40, and there are some questions about their long speed on tape. How high are you willing to take a guy like that is the question, right? Because you should probably assume he's slow. And so that's going to be the thing with him. Should we get a slow receiver at pick 37? That's the other thing, I don't know. I like the technical receiver, and I think there would be probably a lot of value at 37 if he's there. But I do think the speed thing is going to be a problem for people, and it's going to just have to be reconciled in how you use them.
Personally, I don't give a single shit about the 40. I think it makes good wide receivers fall all the time. We ran those numbers, and the correlation didn't hit until like 5 seconds. Like it was basically said there was no correlation with the 40 time.
It's not the 40 though. It's the willingness to run it. Because quite frankly,
it's an agent thing, though.
Yeah, but his tape does kind of scream this guy's not super fast, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think his tape supports like he's faster than a 40 time would suggest. So I think it's gonna be a thing.
The way for sure it's me thing. I think it could make him fall. He wasn't in Daniel Jeremiah's recent mock draft. I do think it's a thing, but I also to me, I understand where it came from. It's like, look, if you're a high 4.5 guy, low 4.6 guy, which is probably I'd say where he is, it's what benefit does running a 4.57 get you?
Oh, I don't blame him for skipping it. If he knows he's going to run a slow 40, I don't blame him at all. I'm just saying that there's a reason he's not running it.
Mhm.
And that reason is that he's probably slow. And then the question is, you go back and look at his film, and was he slow on film? And the answer is, yeah, a little bit
Mhm.
slow. And so you have to figure that into your decision making.
Mhm.
First round, I'd be very hesitant. Second round,
Mhm.
I think the value could be excellent, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's keep going now.
All right. The Giants had Casey Concepcion, our next guy, for a 30. So he's worth discussing. He's another guy that's probably back half of round 1, early round 2, maybe. More of a slot receiver, smaller, he's the explosive guy in the group, right? He's the high motor, explosive, twitchy athlete, great route runner, good ball skills. Does a lot of the nasty stuff with his feet very well. And I think fun to watch. He's a much more enjoyable watch than some of the other guys we talked about. Does have a tendency to sometimes drop the ball, keep his eyes off it, lose focus. But assuming he trains up that part of his game, this could be like a super, super high-end slot receiver. So what do you think about him?
I like him. I think he's a really scrappy player. I think he's really nuanced in his route running, and he has a lot of he's very experienced there, but I do think he lacks the twitch that you look for from these guys of this kind of like build. I think he's really good change of direction, but he doesn't have that like twitch like we've seen with some other guys like what we saw with Tyson and things like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not enamored with Concepcion. Like, for example, if both Concepcion and Boston are sitting there at 37, I'm taking Denzel Boston.
Yeah,
right. I think he's a higher floor bet there. But listen, if they want the explosive athlete, he's one of the few really explosive athletes playing the wide receiver position in this class. So I would understand the logic behind it.
Yep.
All right. Next guy. We did a lot of receivers. My goodness. Jacoby Lane, very quickly, the other receiver at USC, big bodied, fairly explosive athlete, good at doing the little things like getting the soft spot in zone and tempo. Well, I think pretty well coached player. He's remarkably polarizing. Some people really hate him, and some people really love him. I think his floor is a very solid X receiver with some more upside based on his athletic testing, who can do a little bit more than just run vertical routes. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy who, at the very least, can be a red zone target for you. He's very good at boxing guys out and making that contested catch. I think his biggest issue is what he can do at the line. We noted it here. He has limitations, route versatility, and his early footwork technique. And if you watch him at the Senior Bowl, he got pressed hard in those one-on-one drills, and he was struggling with the press. It's something with his size he needs to get better at. He can't just be pushed around at the line. Something that's approved, but also, you watch this guy running the drills at the combine. He's so natural tracking the football, and the gauntlet was phenomenal. And I think there's a lot of upside there. He just needs to be able to get off the line better.
Yep. All right. Pushing right along. Elijah Sarrett, the other receiver, one of the receivers from Indiana. We did not review Cooper formally. We'll get to him at some point. But what did you think about certain? I'll just summarize it. Technically sound, good receiver, natural hands, runs a good solid route, well coached, good timing, does everything solid, right? Just a solid all around receiver. Not necessarily an explosive athlete, but just a solid player. What are your thoughts on Surratt?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of just nailed it there. He's not necessarily a guy that's winning with athleticism, but he's a guy who can create separation just through his timing and his leverage and things like that. But he does struggle to separate in deep routes. That's not something he has. He can be predictable at times due to his reliance on some of his comfort routes. And he's average after the catch ability, limited in created yards after reception. Another guy is we've got a few guys that weren't great athletes here. He's one of them, but he is nuanced, and I'd be happy with him. He's just not a high upside guy given his size and his athleticism.
Yeah, and I think he's going to fall because of that. I think he's like he's a third round guy. Now, if we have a third round pick somehow, and we haven't taken receiver, and Surratt's there, I think I feel pretty good about taking him there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to go over my favorite receiver, and then you go over the best receiver in the class. So, facetiously, Chris Brazzell from Tennessee. You've probably seen a bunch of clips about him already, but I'll tell you what we had written about him before. Physically imposing receiver with rare agility, vertical speed for his size, making him receiving threat down the field. Has strong body control, finishing ability, the capacity to create leverage against defenders. But then he got to Tennessee, Monty, and you saw his route tree. So what do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, look, he is a freak. You saw it at the combine. He's an absolute monster athletically. There's not many humans on this earth who can move like he can at his size. But you can see his effort on the backside completely disappear, even just like on run plays. Like there's nothing there. You can see it where there's some effort earlier in the game, it dies down throughout the game. And it's just there's no route repertoire. It's the Tennessee wide receivers, with Jalen Hyatt, like there's a few routes he runs and that's it.
I will defend him here a little bit, and I'm not a fan. I think he showed at least the traits required to envision a good route runner. Like, he's very fluid, he's explosive, and I think at the stem he's quite good. I think he breaks off routes very quickly, and he can separate very nicely. He's also really good about using his frame and his wingspan with good body control to present a big target. So he does a lot of things well that I think typically you don't expect from Tennessee wide receivers. My issue with him more than anything is I don't understand the whole lack of effort thing. I don't know if that's a lack of effort. It's coaching. I have no idea what that is, but it happens so often and so frequently. It definitely has me leery about bringing him in. And that's the bottom line. I would need answers. And I'm not sure I'm going to get a satisfactory answer for that stuff, right? Like, how do you explain that stuff? So, but I think he's better than Hyatt. And I think he's better than, what's his name in Cleveland? I'm forgetting his name. The other receiver.
Tillman.
Tillman. Yeah. I think he's a better player than them. He's a better physical specimen than them. But, there's a lot that has to be answered in the pre-draft process.
Yeah, I mean that's something when teams get into the interview rooms with him and things like that, he's going to have to answer those questions 100%.
Do you want to go? Have you watched the best receiver in the class yet?
I did watch Skylar Bell.
All right, tell the good people about Skylar Bell.
All right, let me pull up my notes here from when I watched him. But Skylar Bell is somebody that is from the University of Connecticut. He's a guy that when, I originally watched him, he's a guy that I compared some of his movement abilities to, former Giant Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, I don't want to put those expectations on the kid, but, just some of the things that he does, it's just so reminiscent of it naturally. But this is what I said. I said he's explosive at release and sudden get off the line of scrimmage. Here, let me just do my bottom line. I said Skylar Bell is an explosive sudden wide receiver, strong hands and outstanding body control, emerging route running nuance that gives him legitimate high ceiling traits. He wins with quick releases, sharp breaks, dynamic yak ability, and competitive toughness in blocking and contested catch situations. While his UConn tape is screen heavy and short area dominant because of the scheme and team context, his athletic profile and separator instincts project as a versatile slot D wide receiver with wide receiver 2 upside in the NFL that gives him consistent targets and room to develop his full route tree. A good target on day 2 of the draft.
I think that this might be the single most underrated prospect in this class. And I think it's because he played at UConn. But, I went back and watched his game against Duke. I think I told you to go watch. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it.
I watched that one, yeah.
I mean, he went up against a future starting NFL corner, in all likelihood, in Chandler Rivers, right? And he dominated him. With no quarterback play, he completely dominated him. I mean, everything you would want in a receiver, he puts on display. His release package is vicious, and he has a varied release package. He separates almost just almost effortlessly. He separates from guys. And it's what you mentioned, like the Odell stuff is really like the the elite footwork in ball tracking and body positioning to get himself ready to catch a football. And then he just uses those gigantic 10-inch hands to just pluck the ball out of the air. Like there's just stuff you can't teach there. And I would make a strong bet that this guy is going to be he is going to be a year over year, really highly productive receiver in the NFL. All the stuff he puts on tape, it's hard to ignore that, right? I would make a strong bet that he's going to be like a number one receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, he fits the mold of the prototypical wide receivers in today's game, the guys you see success out of. I certainly think he has that type of upside. I think he's probably more likely wide receiver too, obviously, as like a more likely expectation. But I do think he has the traits to be a wide receiver one. It's certainly in the realm of possibilities. And yeah, man, one thing with him at UConn is like, even when he was covered, he was open, and their quarterback knew that. Whenever he had anything, he just threw the ball at him. He just threw it. He's like, fuck it, he's down there somewhere.
And he would go and get it, right? His ball tracking was incredible. The timing of his jumps, his footwork, just all of it. He knew how to use his body maximally to get receptions and make a play with the football. So, you keep seeing him comped and mocked in the third round. And I'm looking at the guy's tape and I'm thinking, why are we not talking about him as a, at least a second round pick? I don't know. So if he's there in the third and we can get our hands on a pick, I would love it. But I think he's going to be special. I really do.
I think one underrated thing about him is this guy's a blocker, man. This guy knows how to block. He wants to block. He's vicious. This is something worth mentioning. Alex said the issue is turning 24 in July. So Mooney and Slayton ahead of him, but that the 24 in July, I think, is the biggest thing. The age will hurt him, I think,
and it's a real factor. Like when you're gauging these players against younger guys in college, you have to take that into account. But his physical movement skills are things that I don't think are. I think that's real. I think that's very much an individual strength.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Do we have any more receivers? Or
nope, that's it.
All right. We went over a lot of receivers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got to keep moving here. We'll try to get through this guys.
We're going to hurry this up now. Kenyon Sadiq, by now everybody knows, outstanding football athlete, playing tight end, more of a receiving tight end. Tested off the charts as expected at the combine. Would you take him if you're the Giants, even in a trade down? Are you taking Kenyon Sadiq?
I'm not interested in Kenyon Sadiq personally.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm willing to die on
that. Not with Likely, especially.
Yeah, I just don't think I think he's good. I don't think he's great. And that's kind of where I stand on him. Eli Stowers, the consensus tight end 2 right now. Tested great. You were right. He tested in the 4.3. He's on his 40.
He 4.5, but he jumped out of the fucking gym.
Was he a 4.5?
4.51, but he jumped out. He set the record for vertical and was number 1 tight ends in broad.
Would you take him in the second round?
Not with Likely here, but I think somebody's going to get a steal with him. I think he's going to be a phenomenal football player.
What about Michael Trigg, who's the next guy? How do you feel about him?
Day 3, I would certainly take him. I think he'll go before that, but if he does fall, I would take him day 3.
I would agree. The plus there is he's played with Jackson Dart. And I think the rapport thing does matter. So depending on if and when he becomes available later, maybe the Giants are interested. I'm going to skip some of these other guys. I do want to talk about Oscar Delp.
Okay.
We've been, I think for a couple of years now, I've been like, hey, this guy's a really good athlete, and he's playing, he just doesn't get the opportunity to shine at Georgia for whatever reason in that offense. And he was getting, 5th, 6th round love basically. And now he's blowing up testing. I don't know if you saw, he went crazy at Georgia today. 6'4", I think he was 250 something, 36-inch vertical, I believe. Really kind of a freak athlete. I think he does it all. I don't think he'll be there on day 3 at this point. I think he's a day 2 pick. How would you feel the Giants use a day 2 pick on Oscar Delp?
Not interested in a day 2 pick. So I'm not really putting a day 2 pick in any tight end right now, given what we invested in Likely and what we invested in Theo and all those other guys. But uh, but I would not do it even if we needed a tight end. I like Oscar Delp, but that's too much of a rejection for me.
There you go. All right. Tight end's done. Interior O-line. Now, we did not discuss the best interior O-line. We did this relatively early. And I'll tell you, I'll go on Block Monte and I'll just say Logan Jones was our favorite center in this class. Actually, he was our favorite interior lineman. And he ran a 4.9 flat.
Yep.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future Hall of Famer.
Really well. That's really well. Really outstanding player at Iowa, 4-year starter at Iowa, took over for Linderbaum. I think he's a safe bet to be a good, solid NFL starting center. I don't know where he goes. I still think there's a chance he drops to day 3, but I think the more likely spot he goes towards the back half of round 3.
Yeah, I'll just breathe what we had in him because I think it's worth it with him. We say he's athletic, technically refined center who excels with quickness, leverage, and hand usage. His lightning fast first step and polished footwork makes him effective in zone concepts where he can reach defenders and climb to the second level with ease. He displays strong grip and hand placement, sustained blocks, along with balance and body control, mirror and protection. Anchor strength remains his primary concern as he gives ground versus heavy-handed bull rushers. With his blend of quickness, leverage, and technique, Jones projects as a high floor center, ideally suited for a zone scheme, and I stand by all of that 100%. I think he's being vastly underrated. My player comp was Tyler Linderbaum, and I stand by that.
I think it's a great comp, and I agree. So I don't know where he's going. Again, that's the big conundrum. I think consensus big boards have him around like pick 100 and something, like low hundreds. I just have a hard time believing a lot of NFL teams are going to watch his tape and look at his testing and be like, let's just, let's ignore him on the third round. I think he's going to the third round personally. Who else do we go over? Connor Lew. He was kind of the prospective center one in this class, and then he got hurt, right? And he missed most soon.
And we didn't love him. We comped him to John Michael Schmitz, which speaks to what we kind of thought. We thought he was technically sound. He got natural pop and fundamental, and has functional movement skills in the run game. He showed disciplined hand usage and a finishing mentality. But he lacked the grip and lower body anchor to limit and sustain against NFL caliber power, and he lacked the foot speed and balance and consistencies.
Yep. All right. Where should we go next? How about interior offensive line? Beyond just Jones and Connor Lew, are there any other interior linemen that you want to discuss that we went over, like Reed Adams? I think we did go over Jaden Roberts too. They're in the draft class. What do you think about them now?
No, I wasn't super high on any of them then. I'm not super high on them now. I think day 3, both of them, both at least as far as Slaughter and Reed Adams, they intrigued me. I didn't like Jaden Roberts, and I really don't like Jaden Roberts now. I don't know. What's your opinion?
Same. I think Reed Adams is the guy I would take just because of his power profile.
Yeah.
Because he's a mauler. And I'm okay with maulers. I think I can make use of them. But you're talking about day 3 guys, like late day 3 guys. I don't see much there.
Yeah, he has slow, messy feet. You really got to clean him up.
Yeah. I mean, Jake Slaughter is the other center. I think worth mentioning is a big, strong guy. I don't think he's as good as Logan Jones or Connor Lew, really technically speaking, but he's a very good, physically dominant type center. So he's available. Yeah, I don't have much else in the interior O-line. I mean, look, the big elephant in the room is Vega Ioane, who really emerged as the season went on. But after we did this episode, it's like just the premier offensive lineman of this class.
Mm-hmm.
And the big offensive line question for the Giants, in my mind, especially on the interior, is going to be: do you trade down and or just take Ioane? Where you're picking and solidify your line there? Or do you do other things to build up your team and your defense and your run game? But in the back of your head, you're going to have to address this in some other way, like down the line in the draft. If you don't get the guard early, you're going to have to probably take somebody day 2, day 3. How would you approach this in your mind, ideally?
He'd be a top target for me in a trade down, but I wouldn't take him at 5. I don't see a Quentin Nelson like prospect like people kind of like keep alluding him to being. I think he's very, very, very good. And I think he is like on par with he's a different type of guy, but on par with like the AVT type prospects we've seen in the past. I think he's one of the better guard prospects. I just think that he's more in that tier than he is a Quentin Nelson. I did watch him and I did do a write-up. So I'll say quickly what I had bottom line here. I said Ione is a powerful, physically mauling guard who wins with functional strength, heavy hands, and a nasty finisher mentality at the point of attack. He's a plus run game mover with a stout anchor and reliable tactical reset and pass pro, plus versatility to play outside and come in and pull. They use him all over that offense to be a weapon. But he had athletic limitations and average recovery speed to cap him against elite quickness. But his power, leverage, and high floor traits project him to be a reliable starting guard in gap power and zone schemes that let him dominate with strength rather than speed. Good NFL interior prospect.
So you're not as high on him. You think he's good, not you're basically saying you think he's good, not elite. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy I would take in the teams.
Jeremiah had him going 22 today on his mock,
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there are other NFL teams that kind of feel the same way. I'm curious. I think he's better than that. I think he's a dominant force at left guard. Like I just see pure dominance there. And I don't think he has to be this elite athlete. I just think what he does is so physically dominant in terms of his punch, his base, his ability to move people. Like he creates running lanes that are just enormous. I think the guy I really think he's an offensive weapon. So I would take him pretty high.
I agree. Like I'm very comfortable in his floor, and I don't think he needs to be an elite athlete to be a very, very good football player in this league. But I struggle to take a guy who is, to me, a below average athlete in the top 10 at there.
I don't think they're going to take him in the top 10. I really don't believe it. I don't believe
I'd be fine. Outside the top 10, I'm fine.
I remember I said like earlier, like if you trade down, Carnell Tate is one of those guys you're like, okay, I'm now more intrigued by you in a trade down scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like almost the same way about this guy.
Even back end of 10, given the class, I'd be fine. Just not where we are.
But I feel stronger about him than a guy like Tate, honestly. Like if I trade down and I got some assets, I would feel very comfortable running to the stage with my pick for him. And saying I got my lockdown left guard. So I'm kind of with you that taking him at 5 feels really, really rich. But I'm calling bullshit on the people who are claiming that, that if you don't take him at 5, you're not going to get him. I'm kind of like, I don't buy it. I think if you stay in the top 10, you're going to get him, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'll say it. I think he's a great player. I think mentioning his name as Quentin Nelson is blasphemy.
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. He's so dominant at what he does.
Quentin Nelson was special, man.
It's probably blasphemy to call anybody Quentin Nelson, as a prospect. I get that. But this guy, I think, is the best interior prospect we've seen since Quentin Nelson. I think that's fair to say. Like, I haven't seen any interior prospect like him. Certainly in the 3 years we've been doing this, I haven't seen anybody like him who's that physically dominant as a left guard. Like just elite left tackle like ability, like impact to just erase a segment of the D line. That's what he does. He just erases a segment of the D line so effortlessly. That's a huge plus on your team. It really is. And you think about what it does for you, or quarterback, obviously. Think about what it does for your run game. I mean, it's just, I said earlier, I want to draft for impact, right? Not positional value and things like that. Imagine you did take him. What do you think the impact is of having a left side of your line being Andrew Thomas and this guy? That might be that might be the best left side of an offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, he might be the best guard since Quentin Nelson. I think Elijah Vera Tucker would have a very good case against that, but I think Pierre Skoronsky would have a very good case against that.
The difference is those
They're
guys
different
are tackles.
types.
Right.
Yeah.
They were tackles in college who projected to guard because of arm length issues, essentially, right? But I get what you're saying. These are physical players who play tackle, who projected as really great guards. They became great guards. This guy's a little bit of a different prototype, you know?
He's definitely a different prototype. He's bigger, he's stronger.
Yeah. Anyway,
he's a mauler.
Right. And I'm not sure he couldn't play tackle. Seriously, like I'm not sure the guy couldn't play tackle. He has the measurables for tackle.
I think he get diced up by speed rushers out there.
Well, I mean, he's not going to try it, but
I don't think he should. But he's not. I don't think he's Zach Martin.
where I land on him is very simple. Am I taking him at 5 and foregoing one of those elite defensive playmakers? No, I'm not. If I trade down and I'm saying if I trade down a few spots and both Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are gone, I think I'm taking him at that point if he's on the board. That's how I look at it.
Look, reality is, I think we're pretty much on the same page. We're speaking a little bit differently, but I think we're on the same page. He's not a blue chipper. I would take blue chippers so they're gone, but after the blue chippers are gone, he's right in the conversation of being the next guy.
And I think I'm going to argue, I think he is kind of a blue chipper.
Then you should be comfortable taking him over the other guys, in my opinion. You should be probably taking him at 5 then.
I just don't think he's I prefer the other guys. I think those two are blue chippers also, right?
If they're in the same tier, it shouldn't matter, in my opinion.
I think they're better. You know, I just think they're better players than he is.
Yeah. I guess he's a blue chipper in the sense of, like, you could say it in the sense of, you know, how many guards in the last whatever, but I don't know. To me, his position is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than especially Styles and Caleb Downs. If you think that he's a blue chipper, that's the same tier. You should be comfortable taking him if you think he's a blue chipper. We talked about Jeremiah Love. Like,
if those two are off the board, so my nightmare scenario is like Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs going 2, 3, 4, you know? Which is not going to happen, right? But like, in that scenario, I feel like I'm comfortable enough with him that I probably would then just take him at 5. But in a world where I think I'm going to have access to a few of them beyond, like more than one of them beyond pick 5, I'm very comfortable making the trade. That's what I'm saying.
To me, again, you're just saying that you won't take them till the blue chips are gone.
Not all blue chippers are the same, dude. Like you can rank blue chippers, you know.
You can, and you can rank them, but I think most blue chippers, I have my preference, but I'd be okay.
I'm gonna argue to put him in the blue category when we do our ranking.
I say, if you think he's a blue chipper,
but I will say,
over those
like, almost certainly like the last one in the blue category, you know. And I think that's where it gets a little.
I'm saying if you're not willing to put him in the same level as those guys, then they should be the next level.
I think the impact of a guy like Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs is just substantially more than him.
That's why they're blue chippers.
Right. but his impact is still very, 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 very high. Like chip, like barely blue chip level. I just don't think he's at that level. But to me, that's more of a testament to them. I think they're that good. You know, and that's we'll get to them. But I don't want to spend more time on this.
Not a lot of blue chips in each draft.
We had to discuss him, even though we didn't review him formally yet. But I think this is going to be a discussion going into the draft, right? Like, how do the Giants approach this guy? Because we have not addressed interior O-line in the freaking offseason. And you know, there's a good bet they love this guy, right? Like when they're looking at his film, they're like, "Holy!" You saw Baldy salivating over him, right? Like, you don't think they're watching him and saying, "Holy shit!" Like, look at this guy. So this is gonna be a discussion. Like, do we take this guy? Do we try to find a way to maneuver the board to take this guy? What do we do with this guy? It's going to be it's going to be a question that has to be answered before they create their draft board and their draft process.
Mm-hmm.
All
Agreed.
right, let's keep it chugging. Where are we in time here? I'm sorry, we were yapping and arguing.
134.
All right, I have to go to bed at some point. I got one more day to go, man. Aren't you proud of me? I'm just like,
yeah, almost there.
One more day. All right. Let's see. Where the hell did I put this thing?
So we're on tackle, and I think I'll just mention this guy because I really think this guy's gotten moved the interior line at this point. And I'll just kick us off, and I'll say Spencer Fano, who's a guy who tested freaky. As people said, I think he's physical, high effort tackle. His run block profile stands out. He consistently generates movement with leg drive, finishes blocks, and shows the athleticism to pull and climb in space, makes him a strong fit for zone. The issue is that I don't like his anchor. His anchor issues show up in pass protection. Despite staying in front, he's often walked back by power rushers. I've heard people say that, I haven't seen his arm issues show up, but I'm like, I did. I saw this guy constantly leading into defenders to compensate for his arm size and creating balance issues. It is an issue I saw on the arm length. A little shorter than I expected.
You mentioned it during our initial review of him.
Mm-hmm. It's something I saw. I didn't expect it to be that short, but it's something I saw and did show up on tape. And when something like that shows up on tape, it's an issue. But I think it'll be better inside. I don't think it'll be less of an issue. I think he can sometimes not show his athleticism as much in pass protection as he can in run blocking.
I like Fano a lot. But I like him for different reasons than just purely, is he a tackle?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's arguably the best bang for your buck offensive lineman in this class because he can probably play all 5 positions. And we talked about him, like he reminded us a little bit about Marcus Bowe, like a high-end
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Bowe type. Another one
things we said about him.
But there's another one that I would think about is like, is there Elijah Vera Tucker in this guy's game?
Mm-hmm.
He's not quite as powerful as AVT was, right? AVT was more of a mauler. But
a little Graham Barton to him.
Right. Like every year we get these guys, right? Who are like really good college tackles, like very good college tackles, but they have certain deficiencies that show up on tape that are almost always due to some length issue, whether it's wingspan, arm length, whatever. And like they become outliers from a physical standpoint. And we always talk about this, right? Do you just bet on the fact that he was really good at tackle and just ignore the measurables and ignore what is an outlier like measurement? Or do you go with the measurables? And I mean, Bucky Brooks had a really good comment about this recently. He said, remember that when you're betting on an outlier, they're called outliers for a reason. And he's like, the reason is guys who don't meet certain thresholds, they have a pretty long storied history of failing at the NFL level at a certain position, if you pigeonhole them there. And you mentioned that on tape, it wasn't like his arm length didn't matter. Like you saw there were some deficiencies there where he's reaching and he's not getting there, right? And he doesn't have the ability to like lock people out. He's an outlier as a tackle. I think you have to be honest about that. I think, can he play tackle at the NFL level? Probably in a pinch, I would say. And probably he can play it, right? I think he can play the position, but I don't think he can play it consistently at a high level. And I'm not taking a guy in the first round to not be to be a tackle if I don't think he can sustain being there at a high level long term.
This is not a player comp, but it's a comp with a pinch playing tackle. It's kind of like Justin Pugh. Like we put Justin Pugh out here. They have the same size arms. He did it for a year, but he had to come inside after.
He played every position but center for us.
Yeah,
and I think he was good.
Yeah,
and he went around the same place this guy's going to go in the draft. Interestingly, right, like mid first round. But Fano is a guy that I think, if it depends on how you view him. If you're thinking I got to get my starting right tackle for the next 5 years, don't take him. In my opinion, right? I don't think that's the right pick. If you're thinking, I just need a high caliber offensive lineman that can play multiple positions, that I'm okay with putting somewhere, whether it's at center or at guard or, some tackle. But I just need the best 5 athletes out there to play offensive line, and I want him in the room. I say take him. And I think he's a really valuable piece. I think he's in the mold of guys like Peter Skoronski and AVT and these types of guys. Like, they're going to be good players. They're going to get paid. I just don't think you can assume he's going to be a long-term right tackle.
And I think when that arm length came in, you kind of saw him he's like, I'm open to going interior line. You heard him, which is good. That's important that he's not going to let his ego get in the way here. And I'll tell you, I think if somebody drafts him to be a center, he's going to be the elite center.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll be an elite guard, honestly. Like, I think he's plenty strong, I think he'll be fine. So
he certainly could be.
Yeah. I'm not worried about him translating to the NFL. I'm worried about him translating to NFL right tackle, and I think it depends on what you want out of the guy. So AVT went, pick 13, 14, something like that.
14, I think. Yeah.
Skoronski went pick
11, I think.
11. That's where these guys go, right? They get drafted in that same position. Like, they're really good in college, but they probably are not tackles in the NFL level. But they're good enough to be first rounders. I think Fano's squarely in that category, and that's where he's going.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. I mean, we're running out of time, so we'll really just kind of do some cliff notes in here.
One last thing.
Yeah,
before we move on. Whatever. Who cares? I'm not going to sleep anyway. How do you compare Fano to Slater? Rashawn Slater's arm length was, I want to say, was more than 32 inches. If I'm not mistaken.
Over 33, I believe.
Yeah.
He was better.
I think Rashawn Slater was a far superior athlete than Spencer Fano.
And I mean, I don't necessarily know how much a better athlete he was, but he was certainly a much better. Yeah, his pass protection is a much better athlete. Run similar. But
and there's something Spencer Fano did that Rashawn Slater did that Fano did not in college. Slater played all those positions in college. Like, he played if I recall, he played all over the line in college. And I think he came in a much more well-rounded prospect than Fano is.
Slater was just a better player in college, in my opinion. And he had 33-inch arms. He ran 4.88. Like, he's just better. He's a better version for sure, in my opinion.
All right, keep going.
All right, so let me get back here to where was it? Here's the list. Caden Proctor, nothing changed there. I mean, he's guy people are going to fall in love with the size, the strength. He can get push. He has a finisher mentality, but he's really bad feet and pass protection. He leans. He has balance issues. He can struggle to mirror. Gets killed trying to recover by counters. Lateral quickness issue. All that. Anything to add there?
Don't touch him. Alabama tackles.
Don't
don't draft him.
I'll say, still to this day, one of my highest graded players. I gave him a 3.875, really very high, and that's Francis Malagoa. He's a guy who's just outside of blue chips for me. Got a very high grade. I said, he has really good hands. He has used independent hand usage, explosive at the point of attack, quick, efficient kick step, gives him a strong foundation, plays power, has a sturdy anchor and pass pro, works well at the second level, finishes blocks, extends arms, keep defenders off his chest, and just good athleticism. The only thing that had is hands can drift outside sometimes, opening up to holding calls. His arm length did look below an NFL tackle, potentially creating issues range rusher. It wasn't nearly as much where it hurt him, but you could tell it was shorter. And he can rely too much on power rather than consistent hand placement.
Yeah, Maui, I think, is the safest bet to be the best right tackle in this class. I don't think it's even particularly all that close.
I'm confident he'll be the tackle. He can be a tackle, in my opinion.
Right, and his arm length answered those issues again. I think his floor is his floor is just so high, dude. Like, his floor is a dominant run blocking right tackle. That's his floor, which is essentially like exactly what you look for in a right tackle, right? And I think his ceiling, if he develops a little bit more in pass pro and just some technical refinements there, his ceiling is, I mean, with his physical ability, he really has kind of like an, potential like Pro Bowl, all pro type ceiling at right tackle, all around game. So easy bet at right tackle. Easy. Here's a question. You are sitting at 5, you're hell bent on offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's make it harder. You trade from 5 to 8, you're hell bent on offensive line. For whatever reason in the world, Francis Mauigoa falls to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And the guard is there too, Wani. You've already paid Jermaine Illuminor.
Mm-hmm.
Which one are you taking?
I think I'd take Mauigoa because I think he's a better player, but I wouldn't fault somebody for saying, "Hey, I've seen this guy at guard. I know he's a good guard, and I'm drafting a guard, so I'm just going to get the guard." I wouldn't fault some of that because he could certainly be a better guard, but there's a world where Mauigoa jumps out to tackle 2 years from now, and I think that's also worth considering.
And that's what I'm getting. I think I would too. As much as I like the other guy, like this guy, I'm pretty sure is my tackle of the future. I'm very comfortable having him play next to Illuminor for a year or two, and then literally either swapping them or just moving him out to right tackle as Illuminor moves on. So not going to happen, but just worth discussing the exercise. All right. Anybody else we want to discuss here? Dunker? You want to talk about Dunker?
Yeah, there's a lot of Dunker talk in the chat. We did the summer scouting on him, so we have a lot of notes here. I'm just going to try to fire. I'll just do the bottom line because honestly faster than these. Yeah. He's a rugged, mauling right tackle who embodies the Iowa lineman pedigree, toughness, finishing ability, dominance in the run game. He consistently displaces defenders, creates running lanes, and plays with a physical edge that sets the tone for his offense. While his athleticism and awareness allow him to function well in space, his deficiencies in pass protection, particularly with hand placement, timing, and susceptibility to speed, remain the primary concerns. If his hand usage and assets improve, he has starting level upside at right tackle. If not, physicality, leverage, and run blocking prowess gives him a high floor as a powerful guard at the next level. Projects as a day 2 prospect with plug and play ability in the run game and developmental upside as a pass protection. What have changed this year is I didn't learn that he was a tackle, and I just feel good about him as a guard, kind of like what I did going into the season. He didn't make the jump, but I still really like him as a guard. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a guard at the next level. So Alex put in the chat, I know Dan Jeremiah comped him to another former tackle from Iowa, Brandon Scherf.
It's very similar size and speed.
Almost identical and similar prototype, right? Like maulers from the college game who just didn't really have the tape to suggest they were going to project all the way through to playing tackle at the NFL level, but could project to being really powerful and strong on the interior. I think he's exactly that prototype.
Yeah.
There are some concerns about balance with him. I think he does tend to lunge and sometimes end up on the ground. I don't know if that's going to project well, but I also feel like that has dragged his value down. I don't think he's going in the second round. I think he's probably a guy who slid to the point where he's likely a third round-ish type pick. And again, if you get your hands on a third round pick and he's sitting there and you haven't addressed O-line yet, he's probably a pretty good bet to take.
Yeah, if he's there, I'd definitely take him. I think he might be in the conversation in the second round, but we'll see. He's interesting. I think Sheriff, I think difference. He was a better pass protector in college, but I remember watching this dude and he had that fucking weird like clap thing when he was like instead of just it was some of his pass protection shit is real weird, but yeah, I think he'll be a good guard.
The last guy worth discussing here at tackle is Blake Miller. We discussed him really early on, and we thought he was a really solid,
we like
physically gifted type. Yeah, like a really good run blocker, and a very good athlete, gets into space, really good in zone runs and things like that. But he had some deficiencies in terms of like taking bad angles, poor leverage, just little things that we thought he needed refinement, especially like with his hand technique, his punch. I will say that I think as the year went on, he got better at those. Like he's one of the few players that actually got better as the year went on. Everybody else unfortunately struggled.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think Miller has solidified himself as like a true starting right tackle at the NFL level. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, we spoke about he has that size and kind of the length and athleticism to be a projectable tackle in the league, and he has all that still. But look, this is a guy who has, played 54 games in college. He has a lot of reps. It took him a little bit of time to fully put it together, but he got there, and that's what having the reps does for you. I think he's a day one starter in the NFL. I mean, I'm not gonna think he's gonna be the exception where he comes in. He's this great tackle day one. Tackles usually struggle, but I do think you can start him.
I also think he actually projects fairly well as a guard if you want to start him on the interior. I think he's a tackle. Don't get me wrong. But again, if a team like, for whatever reason, if it was the Giants that had taken him somewhere, I don't know how that would work. But if they did, I'd be very comfortable with Blake Miller starting at right guard, and I think his athleticism and his ability to dominate in the run game translate very well at guard, at least for some time. And this could be kind of like Maui Noah, where you're going to play on the interior for a while to learn how to play in the NFL. And then eventually we're going to groom you to be our right tackle. Green Bay does this all the time, by the way, right? Green Bay drafts tackles. They'll invest in these guys, and they'll either just let them ride the pine, or they'll make them play on the interior for a year or so while the other guys play at tackle. And then they just slowly move them to the outside and let the other guys go. Like, this is how some of the best teams do it on the O-line. They just draft the best prototypes physically, and a lot of them are just tackles playing center, tackles playing guard, and I have no problem with the Giants doing that if that's the way they want to go about it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Right. That's offense.
Yeah.
Time-wise, we're almost at 2 hours.
I know. Should we even do defense at this point? Should we do it another time?
Well, maybe we should be judicious about how we do defense, because we can push a little bit here. Let's go quickly. I don't want to go over everybody. On interior D-line, Washington went back. We got to talk about Woods, McDonald, Hunter, and Miller. Like those four. Let's quickly talk about them. Peter Woods, we don't have to go over it. We know he was a blue chip prospect coming into the year. He fell, and I think he's one of these guys. And we're going to talk about this on defense. The Clemson guys all fell. They had a new DC. Their defense didn't play well. Everybody's stock got hurt. He's had some issues in the lead up to the draft. His stock is falling. He was not in Jeremiah's top 32, and that's multiple people now who have him not in their top 32, Monty.
Yeah.
The talent is there. Bottom line to me is this is his comp when he's playing his game is real. I think he even said this was like a guy like Leonard Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would, if he fell to 37, that I think would be the dream scenario. I don't know if he will, but he's falling. And I think if you're out of the first round, then you're only a few picks away from us. I would jump to take Peter Woods and bank on that.
He's a guy I would just turn down the trade downs and take him at 37. I wasn't even as high in Peter Woods as you were. Like I was a good bit lower. I gave him a 3.4. I didn't see the blue chip at all. I saw the upside, but I didn't. We reviewed him pretty early. I didn't see the blue chip. I didn't think he had like a rare get off or anything like that. But I did think he collapsed the pocket. He had like violent hands and things like that. He didn't have like some of the freak athleticism stuff you see from these guys, in my opinion. Despite him being a freakless guy, it just didn't pop enough.
And I think so. Yeah, I think you saw it in flashes.
Yes, you absolutely saw it in flashes.
And I think the thing with him is I'm betting on the traits and the flashes translating at the next level.
Yeah. We've been waiting on it, and I would take that shot at 37.
It's one thing to say I'm not taking him at 5, but if he's falling and he's actually in the second round, like, my God, that you're not going to get a better value player than that. So that's him. Caden McDonald McDonald is a very, very high floor run stuffing D tackle from Ohio State. You didn't love him because he doesn't have pass rush upside. You called it early. I don't see a guy that the league will value because he doesn't do anything in the as a pass rusher, and that seems to be the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not really a pocket pusher. He's more of like a pocket stopper, right?
Correct. Exactly.
And he's a great run defender. Like, he's great at like eating double teams, shedding guys, and taking away the ball carrier and erasing them quickly at the line of scrimmage. But he's not doing much as a pass rusher, and he admitted that. Now, he's very young. And so he could still develop that part of his game, but right now that's what he is. He's just he's a lot like Tyleik Williams was, and I think he is very much likely to be in play at pick 37 if he's there, because he actually fits what we want very well.
Yeah, he's a two gapper. He reads the backfield well. He's a run stopper with limited upside, I'm saying. And the next guy, we'll just jump right to it, is also just a run stopper in my opinion right now, but is a guy who has much more upside there where he shows, and that's Lee Hunter. He totally just absorbed and neutralized double teams. He is a pocket pusher. He walks guys back. He's more of a dynamic run stopper than this guy. Strong two gap present, occupies multiple blocks, but he just was not a guy who was shedding and making plays in the pass protection. And to me, I lack the elite first step and explosiveness to be like edge threatening athleticism. Primarily just a bull rush guy and linear power moves.
Yep. No, I agree with that. High floor as a run defender. Maybe some upside as a pass rusher, but
and we both can jump higher than him.
what did he jump 20 inches or something like that?
21, I think. Maybe 22.
Can you
I think it was 22 because I said
NFL, you said fat boy can't jump 28 inches or something like that, right? 22 inches, like
no, it's because I said if he got to jump his twice and you added it together, it was still less than Eli Sauer's 44 and a half.
It's pretty funny trying to like imagining the fat boy trying to jump, but he gets up to 20 inches or whatever. It's really hilarious. That's fine though, that's fine.
I said I think it shows up in his first step. He doesn't fire off the ball. Yeah,
no.
But he's had a really good playoff though. That's worth mentioning. He played phenomenal in the playoff.
Yep. Last tackle to talk about, Christian Miller. A lot of Giant fans talk about him because they feel like he's going to be in play at 37. I think some of these guys are going to be in play, and I think Christian Miller will not be their preferred target here, but we'll see. The kid from Georgia. I mean, he is very, very physically gifted. He's a big kid. He's an athlete. He does play with his hair on fire. He's got that high motor play. He's a one gapper for the most part, but he's physically strong enough to be a two gapper if need be. He has all the tools you need to be a dominant DT, but I think right now he's still more of like a hair on fire kind of guy and not necessarily like a refined defensive tackle. And, as long as you understand that, if you want to take him and bet on the upside, I think that's how you look at him. I think out of all the guys we've mentioned here, he's the worst bet to be an impact player year one, in my opinion.
Yeah, the instincts aren't there, and you cannot be taught into them. It depends. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. Sometimes it just comes with experience. But man, he is a high. He'll give you every fucking pit of effort he has. He's a high effort guy.
I agree. All right, edge rushers. I don't want to spend too much time here because we got plenty of them. We're gonna rapid fire through this.
Bane's still the best player in the draft, in my opinion. I don't know where you stand.
Pound for pound, number one player in the draft.
Best take.
And it's gonna be hard not to take him, right?
There's an argument in the chat with, is Bane a blue chipper, and I think I agree with Alex that like on paper he shouldn't be a blue chipper because of his limitations on, but as far as a tier, he still is for me. So still not right in that tier of the best players. If I needed an edge, especially, I would take him over any of these guys without question.
Bucky Brooks said they're called outliers for a reason because it's hard, the success is an outlier outcome for these guys. However, outlier does not mean, unicorn. That doesn't happen. Bane appears to be the outlier who I think it's going to work for. And so I would bet on Bane. I think he's going to be an outstanding NFL player.
He gets better as the game goes on. He's ridiculous size, power, and a bend for his size is crazy.
He's unblockable. Doesn't matter who he's playing, he's unblockable. Anyway, TJ Parker is another good edge. Another guy who got hurt by Clemson's bad, but he's a disruptive edge. He's sound. He's a good all around run defender, pass rusher, good bend, good first step, explosive power. He's got the whole thing. He's got a nice pass rush repertoire. I don't see us taking him, but worth mentioning.
Yeah, I could see him slipping in. He has really good athleticism, a really good blend of speed and power. I could see him slipping in the first round.
The only other edge I think we should talk about is Keldrick Falk. Now his stock has fallen. He's a freakless guy. Squatted 700 pounds, bench 415, but it seems like he's like back half of the first round now.
That was a guy we laughed at when we saw him over Bane and stuff like that earlier in the process. We did not see it, and it seems like that's starting to kick in, which makes sense because the production wasn't there on it either.
Yeah, he's kind of like a stiff athlete for an edge rusher,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's something we saw on tape. We didn't grade him super high. But he's gonna go in the first, I think. I think somebody will take him.
Yeah,
All right,
not high.
linebackers. Not high. Yeah. Linebackers. So this is where the fun is, right? This is the discussion.
Yep.
So let's start with Sonny Styles. He was not our number one rated
No,
linebacker.
we didn't like him that much in 2024,
But
that changed.
well, not just that. If you recall, like he didn't pop on tape, and you mentioned that, right?
Mhm.
And I said, here's the thing, though. He's pretty instinctive, right? Like he's calm out there. He doesn't look like he doesn't play with his hair on fire. He's like very calm, and he follows the plays. He's got good instincts, and this is a guy who just converted from safety to linebacker, so maybe he's being careful. But I think
You did
I
say
think
that.
I said that I think there's plenty of athleticism and explosiveness there. I don't think it's on display because he's just being careful playing a relatively new position. And then as the season went on from there, you saw him start showing that explosive athleticism,
Yeah.
Go to the Indiana game, go to the Michigan game. You saw him hair on fire, blowing people up. If you watch the interview he did with Ben Solak, I don't know if you saw that, where he was talking about
Yeah,
how
you
he
were in love with
processes
him.
run fits. Yeah, very impressive. Like I'm full blown in love with this kid, man. I think
you're like I'm not trading down.
Well, no, I'm pretty measured about all that stuff, but I just feel like Sonny Styles is a special kind of a prospect, and I think I like guys who get better. I like guys who have that athletic ability and show instincts, and then you see them get better and better and better every week, right? They put it all together,
Yep.
and their trajectory is way up. And then you hear them talk, and the NFL bloodlines and all of the studying, it all comes through, and you're like, God, this is an all pro. That's how I feel about him right now.
Yeah, I liked him a lot more. I remember you saying that you're like I think it's it's not actually the athleticism. I wasn't willing to necessarily make the leap. Like I got to see it on tape, but I think you should be cautious. And this year you see it. And I'll read what my bottom line you guys haven't heard yet that I've done off my tape study that I did when I went back and watched him. I said he's an athletic, strong-bodied off-ball linebacker with a safety background that translates beautifully to coverage and explosiveness. He's a physical stack and shed run defender, a reliable tackler, and a scheme versatile piece who can drop smoothly into zone, click and close, and bring power as a blitzer. His instincts and aggression are still catching up after the position change, but the clear 2024 to 2025 leap plus his natural tools gives him legitimate 3-down upside, but best fit in a system that plays downhill, lets him use his range and coverage, and brings him on design pressures. High ceiling prospect who projects as a good starter with continued refinement coming.
I've seen this criticism from multiple people that I put it up to
Agreed.
Alex, a concern about lack of violence when he tackles. Fair enough, right? So the question is the lack of violence because he's unable to do it, or is it because I'm going to say the same thing I said before? I think he's just a very sound, calm football player. I don't think he's out there trying to use every last ounce of energy on every play. I think he just goes and makes the plays. He's very workmanlike. I think I've heard this criticism, but there's nothing about his physical and athletic profile that tells me that he couldn't blow you up to like the next level, to like the next planet if he wanted to. I just think he gets there and makes it tackle, and so I'm not worried about that.
I'm not worried about his ability to do it, but I do think it's something instinctual that it's not the way he plays, which is okay. It's a different way to play. So I had something very similar here. I said lacks elite aggression and attack mentality, more of a read and react than a true downhill hammer or gap attacker. I mean, look, there's some guys who play with their hair on fire. He's a guy who's he's going to wait and use his elite click and close ability to fill a gap. But he's not going to necessarily blow things up before they happen.
Well, and my counter to that criticism, which is a fair criticism, but my counter to that is, how often do you see that result in guys breaking tackles on him or getting additional yardage on him?
No, not often. One thing I will say to the tackle thing, he got a lot of tackles. I do think there's a lot of byproduct of just Ohio State defense being phenomenal and having a lot of bias to the ball. I do think I don't think, like, as far as him being there, he's a reliable player. I think his tackling form needs work. So I do think there's something there then that it's
And
not
again,
bad. I just don't think it lives up to what the stats are.
he's also converted safety again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some element of like I said, I'm going to stick with this. Like, I think this is a guy who's still learning the position of linebacker,
Yes,
and he's kind of taking a
absolutely.
very methodical, measured approach to how he plays it, and he's playing it at the highest level, despite not necessarily putting all of his tools together yet. So to me, the way I look at that is, he's already put on tape a high end first round prospect at linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got a ton of tools that he hasn't even tapped into yet athletically.
Yes.
The projectability is through the roof here, you
I
know?
agree.
And so I mean, honestly, dude, this is an easy pick at 5. If you want to go that way, if you want a linebacker, I think he has played his way into being that guy.
Yeah, I mean, because I think if you look tape, to me, he's like a middle of the first rounder based off just
Sure.
tape. What he did is play, but then you see the flashes of it. He's not just like a combine warrior. You can see it on tape, but he's a generational athlete, and that those two added together make him a blue chip prospect.
I fully agree. I think he's going high. And I at the end of the day, I think while the Giants will definitely entertain trading that pick, and they're going to try to, I think it's going to be real tempting for them if they're sitting there at pick 5 and they've got Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs on the board. It's going to be very hard for them to walk away from that pick. I think they're going to have to get a pretty decent return, actually.
And you would take Styles in that situation.
I go back and forth on this one. I think Caleb Downs is probably the safer bet to be the more impactful overall player for your defense, because I think, and I've used this term a bunch, I think Caleb Downs is a force multiplier. I think he's better than his own play because he's such a leader on that defense. Like, he's going to position your DBs, he's going to position your linebackers. Your overall defense is going to get better. But that's the thing, right? We saw Styles doing that as the season went on. He took on that role. He took on that role where he was like. So if Styles is doing those intangible things that Downs is doing, probably because he learned it from Downs, to be totally frank, and he's got the physical upside that I don't think Downs has. I think Downs is an outstanding player, but I don't think he has that kind of traits-based upside. I'm probably leaning more towards Styles. There's one other reason I would lean towards Styles, and this is just about geometry. Tremaine Edmonds is 6'5", right? 6'5", 240. Something like that. Sonny Styles is 6'5",
250.
And Sonny Styles is 6'5", 244.
Yeah, that'd be scary combo.
I mean, think about that for a second. Like, your quarterback and the middle, like, you're reading a defense, and right in front of you are these two fucking Goliaths with their arms like this.
Yeah, it'd be scary.
The middle of the field between the short and intermediate area is a scary place to throw the football. You're erasing a chunk of the field for a lot of quarterbacks, right? Like, you have to be a very confident, very accurate, high velocity passer to actually challenge that, right? So to erase a segment of the field with those two is it's a weapon on defense, right? And it allows what else? So what do we have? We've got freaking speed, NASCAR on the outside, and Abdul Carter and Brian Burns racing to the quarterback, and you've got a Dex, in the middle. This is a terrifying prospect for quarterbacks. So so when I say I love Caleb Downs, but I feel like that combination right there that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if I want to trade that pick, dude. Like,
you have 4 edge rusher size linebackers on the field.
That's my theory. Like, I'm looking at them, it matters, right? You see short ass quarterbacks, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's fine, they're great." They can't see shit, right? They can't use the middle of the field. Now, a 6'2" quarterback is going to have a hard time seeing anything with these two guys in the middle of the field, right? And I think that's something to think about. So anyway, I think that's the linebacker discussion. Like, that's the crux of the main part of the linebacker discussion. I want to rip through the other guys real quick, dude, if that's okay.
Yeah, for the record, I would still take Downs, but it's close. I would be happy.
It's close. It's close. I'm not hard and fast on it because they're both really great, but that's my argument. CJ Allen had a good pro day today. We both liked him a lot. I think he's gotten a lot of bad press. I think it's uncalled for. He's a very solid linebacker, but Sonny Styles has obviously passed him by quite a bit.
Yeah, he didn't make that jump in the top 10 like we thought he possibly could, but
No,
I think
he. Go ahead.
I think it's a mistake if teams let him fall in the first round, but they might.
He plays so hard, right? He's a high motor guy. He's got good instincts. He's a good athlete. People are like, oh, he runs stiff. They find reasons to criticize him, but he's a solid football player. Is he going to be this elite player? No, I don't think he showed that yet. And he is, he's a little stiff, but he's still he's a good tackler. He's just a good all-around athlete. Very sound, late first, early second, prototypical linebacker. And I think in most draft classes, he might be the best linebacker in the class, right?
In all the last three, probably. Outside Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell was better, but
this just happens to be a different kind of a class, right?
Yeah.
What weeks didn't declare, so we're gonna take him off. Anthony Hill. Give me your thoughts on him in 2 seconds.
Great athlete. I think he's an explosive player, plays with hair and fire. I think he's still a little bit more of a projection than I'm comfortable with where he's getting taken. I think that he has kind of a smaller guy, struggles disengage and he works his hand usage and strength. So not as high on him as other people, but he's interesting.
Okay.
About you?
Yeah, I like Anthony Hill for the athletic upside. I think he's a will more than a mind personally.
Absolutely a will.
And I just don't. I don't think he possesses the traits I'm looking for what I think the future prototype of linebacker you want is going to be. I think he's a very good player, but I think what Styles is, while he's rare, I think like that big physical presence who can command the middle of the field. That's kind of what I'm looking for personally. We didn't review Jacob Rodriguez earlier. We have to do like a formal review at some point of him, but I think he's worth discussing. I think he's another guy who actually fits the prototype I'm looking for. He's a very good athlete. I'd be very happy with Jacob Rodriguez if we decided to punt on linebacker early. And if you want to take him at pick 37, I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I would. And I'd be fine with CJ Allen there too. I think those are two linebackers I'd be perfectly comfortable taking at 37 if they're there. We'll see if they even get there though.
They may not.
But one thing I'll say about Anthony Hill, who I would not be comfortable at 37th, I think one thing you would bet on is if he can become a coverage guy that he has the potential to do, that's where he lives up to where he's getting taken.
Yeah. The thing that bothered me about Hill when we watched him, and I didn't see him completely correct this, is that he just has a tendency to overshoot. Like he's very fast and he's explosive, but his run angles, are they're a little off. I don't think he's like some people criticize Styles for being a little bit too careful and getting there. And Hill is reckless, I think that he will overrun the play a lot at the NFL level. Some of these athletes will burn him, and I think there's some concerns there. So he's got to clean up his game a little bit for me to feel comfortable taking him that high. But if you're just betting on the athlete, he's an outstanding athlete.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
Let's see. Move on to the next position group. We only got 2 more to go. We're flying here. Safety. Yep. All right. Here's where the discussion gets interesting, right? So we actually didn't review one of the top 3 guys, which is sad.
Who other guys?
We did not review the Oregon guy.
Oh, we'll have to get to him.
Yeah, so we'll have to get to him. But let's talk about the top 2 guys though. I think they're worth discussing. So Downs and McNeil Warren, we were high on both of them a long time ago. McNeil Warren before he became a household name, and now he's a household name. And they're both projected to go in the first round or early second. Talk about it. How are you approaching the safety room here?
Yeah, I mean, you know me. When we talked about it, I had some questions about Caleb Downs and coverage, and I still do. Not in the sense that I think he's bad. In the sense, is he elite? Is he a difference maker there? And I still have some questions about that, like his ball skills and what. But I think that he's the more and more I talk myself into, he's just such an elite run stopper. He's a weapon. Like you look how the Ravens deployed Kyle Hamilton this last year. Kyle Hamilton does have that single high ability, but they didn't use him like that. They used him as a weapon close to the line. I think that's where Downs is going to be best used. I think he's a leader. I think he's a culture changer. I compared him to Jamal Adams, and I do think he's a smaller Jamal Adams who we've yet to see if he can be an elite coverage guy, which Jamal Adams clearly wasn't. So it's Jamal Adams potentially plus. But first couple of years Jamal Adams in this league, people forget he was a freak. He was a culture changer. He changed the culture with the Jets, and that's what I kind of like the comp there. But yeah, I would be very happy with Caleb Downs. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think when you try to break Caleb Downs is such a unique prospect, dude. Like when you try to break him down by like the categories, you come away maybe thinking of him as being less than what you thought he would be going in, right? Like when you break him down, like he's an individual whose whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at him, right? Like he's not a freak athlete. He's not like this superpower human being, you know. He doesn't have elite speed. He doesn't have enormous wingspan. He doesn't have any of those traits that typically translate to elite anything. But everything he does faster and better from a mental processing standpoint than anybody else on the field.
I was going to say same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about how safety is the quarterback of the defense, right? It's a process. It's the biggest trait, the biggest skill and trait for a safety is up here. It's the ability to process information in warp speed, read an offense, understand where the quarterback is going with the football pre-snap, especially if you're a green dot guy, like Sonny Styles essentially is projected to be, where you're basically calling out the offense and saying, this is what's happening. You move the guys around on your defense. And then once the ball is snapped and you can, like, the route recognition, the play recognition, that's all stuff he does he's like Neo in the Matrix. Like everything is slow for him and he's flying. Even so, his foot speed may not be incredible, but he's always there to make a play because he's just that type of human being. He's a rare cerebral specimen. He's incredible, dude. Like don't get me wrong. I just wax poetic about how awesome I think Sonny Styles would be here, but Caleb Downs is a guy like you put him on your defense and you almost never have to worry ever again about your defense being in proper position play after play after play. Like that's how good he is. So yes, from a physical standpoint, I can see the Jamal Adams thing, but from a processing standpoint, from just a leadership standpoint, I think he is worth his weight in gold, times 10.
And I do think it's worth mentioning. Alex is cautious because the medicals. There's one report saying is degenerative ACL and partial torn meniscus. There's other people who have refuted that and said they had no medical concerns, but it's absolutely something you need to monitor.
Yeah, I mean, the teams are going to have information from the combine because he did go through medicals at the combine, is my understanding. So they'll have that. Plus, they're going to do their own evaluations. If it's an issue, it's going to hurt him. If he gets drafted early, it's not an issue. That's how I look at it. McNeil Warren, give me your thoughts on him.
I mean, he's a fun player to watch. He's long, he's athletic. You see him run all over the field. He's a physical hitter. He's aggressive in run defense. He's fluid. He's a turnover generator, and he's a pretty solid zone coverage guy. My only issues are more just something he needs to develop more as he gets along in his career. He can be a little bit over aggressive and kind of overrun things. He can be susceptible to play fakes and play actions. That just comes with processing. Something that Caleb Downs does not deal with. He's kind of the opposite there. Can rely a little bit more physicality over technique when he tackles. And he's a little bit of a risk reward player. He'll risk it for the biscuit on as a safety, which sometimes as a safety you don't want that, but he can make some great plays.
He's going to benefit so much from Nick Amenwari's success. He's that physical prototype. The teams are going to. It's a copycat league. They're like, oh, I want my own Nick Amenwari. I think he's a good player. But I think, I think that he may get overdrafted actually because of the profile. I like him. I don't love him. I actually prefer, we didn't go over him, so we're going to discuss, the kid from Oregon, I think is a little bit better, but, so I think he's a good player. I'm not sure I love him. I think there are other players who I would take in this position over him. We went over a couple other guys. I think they're worth mentioning for day 3, just for the sake of pissing off D-Kit. Michael Taffy, who he hates. Taffy. Yeah, Taffy plays aggressive physical football, played single high in a zone scheme, big hitter, plays with like his hair on fire. I think D-Kit said he's dirty as a player. I don't know if that's really, I don't know if I care. He's a good player, but he's older. He's going to go later in the draft. He's a redshirt senior. So you were talking about probably like a late day 2, early day 3 guy.
He's a high IQ guy, man. He reads quarterbacks' eyes really well. I think he showed some cornerback like man coverage ability at times. He is a guy I would love to add to this room.
Right.
Just
And then
smaller.
the USC guys, Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald, both had pretty solid years for different reasons. I think they project differently. Fitzgerald, I don't think is going to be a highly sought after drafts guy, but he's one of those guys where the football just finds him. He had a bunch of
Mhm.
interceptions.
Former QB. Sometimes it's just being knowing how to be in the right place at the right time.
Very, very Dane Belton-ish,
Mhm.
late day 3, you could do worse than a guy like that. Ramsey, I think, is a bit more of a physical player. The question is, where do you put him?
Yeah, he's just a tool. He's a Swiss Army knife. He may never be great at any spot, but he's a guy that you can kind of put all over. Maybe it's Julian Love.
He could be. That's not a bad comp, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cornerback. Let's go through this and then close up.
Yep.
So, our number one was Avian Terrell, if I recall, right?
Yep.
Has that changed in your mind?
No, I
Me
think
either.
it. I think Avion Terrell is the best at what he does. I think that there are certainly people will make the case that his size and they value some of the coverage ability that the other guys have more than what Terrell does. And Terrell's a great coverage guy, but he just brings this high end energy, like ball skills, like aggressiveness. We've talked about like a Devin Witherspoon comp with him. He's a smaller guy and he's getting knocked for it, but he just elite quick and close. He's a great athlete with a long stride, has good makeup speed, fluid mover, natural ball skills, attacks the ball aggressively in the air, great reaction time, timing and route anticipation, physical tone setter. So many notes here, man. Impactful run defender, emotional, confident player that thrives in energy and momentum, scheme versatile, discipline's trending up, produce penalties. Like we had so many positive things to say about him. We mentioned he had a light frame, over aggressive nature can lead to a bite and double move sometimes. Tackling form being consistent. Footwork is sloppy at time. An emotional play style can lead to unnecessary penalties and lapse of focus. But man, he's just the right, but going off of last year with the type of guys we brought into this football team, he builds off that. He's the next kind of guy that's just going to be just bringing energy to this team.
Remember my comp for him?
Was it not Witherspoon?
Yep, Devin Witherspoon.
Okay, yeah.
He's a tone setter,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's so technically good that he can play outside, inside. He's a really good, technically sound corner. Another guy whose stock has been hurt by Clemson's shit show, but you can't hide the demeanor and the way he plays football. I love the guy. I think he's going to be the best corner of this class. I really do. I don't care about the pre-draft stuff right now.
Yep.
I think Terrell is going to translate really well, and whoever gets him is going to get a hell of a football player who's going to immediately translate into being a good football player. I'm confident in this.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if he has the upside. Like if you're hoping you're going to get Patrick Surtain with one of these guys, it's not going to be that. And you can make the arguments with McCoy and Delane that they could have their shutdown corner.
McCoy maybe. Like I don't see that. I don't see Surtain in this class.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I don't know, have that example, Delane LSU guy. I think it made his comments like Tre'Davious White had that like season. Like Delane might be able to do something like that. I don't think Avion Terrell has that number one cornerback in the league year, but I think he's going to consistently a great player for a long time.
I think Avion Terrell is going to be the cornerback that's playing at the end of January.
Mm-hmm.
He's a winning football player, and that's what he screams to me, right? He's a tone setting player in the secondary who's always making plays. He's making plays on the football. He's making plays in the run game. He plays press. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He sets a tone that I think is infectious, and he himself is a technically outstanding football player. There's just things you can't teach, right? I think he's got that, and I love it about the guy.
Helps as brother. Helps like make you feel better as a brother is like an all-pro corner too, and he's just as good, if not better, in college as him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Not to take away from Delane and McCoy, who we both liked a lot. McCoy we haven't seen yet. I mean, I think if he was healthy, you could make a very strong case that McCoy is easily cornerback one in this class just because of his physical ability and his ability to take away the football.
His 2024 tape was the best out of any of these guys, just from a pure cornerback standpoint. He great athlete when last time when he was healthy.
Physically dominating, great athlete. And for those who haven't seen him, McCoy was a guy that played a very specific type of ball, which is he constantly baited quarterbacks. He wasn't one of these guys like, I'm going to run and smother you, even though he could have if he wanted to. He wasn't that kind of corner. He ran and gave guys plenty of room and baited quarterbacks to throw the ball at him. And he did it. And then he would just quickly turn around and close and take the football away. Like, it just nasty, nasty stuff from a cornerback, right? Like, he's, again, turning himself into a defensive weapon. But he hurt his knee, missed the whole year, still hasn't tested. Until we see him run at his pro day, I don't know what to make of him.
Yep. It makes me uncomfortable he didn't run at the combine. We'll see what he does at the pro days. I don't like that he didn't come back. I'm like, what's wrong with him at this point? But he's a great player. And I also say, just in this system, man, like he does have that like play off and make a play, but he's also a guy, he will stuff you at the line and he'll throw you off those timing routes. He does that shit too.
Yep. Monsieur Delane is a guy that now has been viewed, just because of consistency, as the number one corner in this class. And I think he's earned that. Yeah, he had a great year. He's good at everything, right? He's very good at everything. He's very good in man. He's very good in zone. He's very good in press. He's very good with his ball skills. He's very good in his run fits. He doesn't have a weakness in his game. I don't think he's elite at anything. I think he's just very good at everything. So he's a high floor, solid cornerback. And I think that because he's the cleanest prospect of all these guys, he's CB1. I really like him. You liked him back when he was at Virginia Tech a year ago, and he just got better and better. I don't really want to take him with a top pick personally.
No. I mean, first of all, cornerbacks just in general scare the shit out of me this high. Like, unless you're a blue chipper, I'm not taking you this high. I'm just me. Yeah, I mean, it's literally no here. He's fundamentally clean, but lacks a true wow trait. More steady and dependable than dynamic.
Yeah, that's exactly him. He's a really good football player, and somebody's going to get a really good football player. I don't think he sets a tone. I don't think he has an elite trade. With that position, I'm looking for maybe that guy who can be like a ridiculous tone setting kind of person. And that's the only reason I'm saying I don't know if I would want him over the other guys.
Yeah. The only thing that he might have an elite trait is instincts and IQ.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. That matters.
Yeah.
A guy we don't have on our list here, but we talked about him. And boy, did he pan out. I liked his tape. I liked the early returns on him. You remember Chris Johnson? We talked about him before. He was a household name. It sounds like he's becoming a household name now. Chris Johnson from San Diego State. That dude is something, man. Like, I don't like, he is a nasty, nasty coverage corner. Like, he has the physical traits. He can run with anybody. He's got fluid, oily hips. He can flip his hips and run with anybody. Great ball skills. He's actually a pretty good tackler. So he does it all. The question was, can it translate once he got to the combine? Are you going to see this stuff, or was he just beating up on poor competition? I think arguably he had the best workout of any corner at the combine. He really put on a show. So his stock went way up. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Johnson is knocking on a first-round pick right now. He's knocking the door for a first-round pick.
Yeah, and he's someone we'll have to do a full breakdown on. We didn't have the tape at the time, but we do now. And he's a really intriguing player.
Yeah, I had to go back and watch like the San Diego State tape at the time to find what I could on him, but it was so impressive. So but Chris Johnson looks like the real deal now. He's one of those guys, dude. Like, if we're not trading the pick, if he happens to be there at 37, there's not a lot of guys that would take over Chris Johnson. Seriously. Like, I think we don't have a long-term solution at corner. We have a Debo who's maybe is here for another year or two, and we have a one-year guy in Newsome. If Chris Johnson is there at 37, you might have your solution at corner. I really like that kid. I like him more than some of these other guys. So just someone to keep an eye on.
Personally, and no knock on him at all in this. He's not a guy that would keep me from trading out, but it takes a first round grade for me to trade down. So it's like a Peter Woods, Avian Terrell. That would be the type of guys to keep me from trading down.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think I would take him over Avian Terrell or Peter Woods.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's my bar for not trading down personally.
Right. But he's got to be in. He's in the conversation. You know, he's
Absolutely.
one of those
He's
guys.
top of that list when I'm trading down, and hopefully
Right. And he's worth discussing because he very well might be there at 37. And you have to have the conversation. Like, what are we doing here? So
and maybe he's there for like 42. Like, you don't know. It could happen. Like, it could be there in
exactly.
5 picks later if you trade down.
Exactly. All right, man. 2 hours and 29 minutes into this, we have gone through all of our prospects.
Yeah, for the most part.
All the guys, a lot of the guys we reviewed. Good discussion. We're gonna have to get to work now. I will actually properly have sleep by the time I see you guys next week. I'll be able to function more appropriately. We can actually do some breakdowns and stuff. So we'll do that. You got anything else before we close the sucker out?
No, man. Starting to build together some lists. You heard me read off some of the stuff I've been working on, so I'm excited to really dive into some of these guys we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. And with
we're I think we should do some quick reviews of some key guys that we just haven't had a chance to do a full formal review on. Knock those out, and then we're going to be banging out our top 100 list.
Yeah, and like let's focus on a couple of the important positions that we know we got to go after.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you guys for being here. If you haven't hit the button already, hit the like button on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to He's Giant Pod. Help us grow. Thank you guys. You're the regulars. You're the hardcores sticking with us the whole time. Share the episode. We will see you next week. Until then, go Giants.
Go Giants.